580 Sports Talk coming to you on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for stopping by. Fall is here, ladies and gentlemen. Rain in the forecast this weekend. Going to be a little bit chillier. I know Dan and Brennan are excited for football weather. That is right.
The only exception is that I would prefer it not rain all that much on Friday night. You could take a break from like noon to midnight Friday from rain. That would be great.
Don't know if that's going to happen.
That's my hope.
Don't know if that's going to happen. We got lots to get to today. We are going to hear from a few different individuals. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. We will also hear from Tim Fitzgerald. We've got our high school athletes of the week, and our athletes of the week goes to a team. When you win a state championship, you get you become athlete of the week. It's pretty simple. We've had that tradition for a while now.
Especially if you're a golf team and you win by 37 strokes.
I'm not normally privy to golf. Is that pretty good?
It's decent.
Okay.
As a golf insider myself,
37 strokes. Yeah.
I would describe it as mad dece.
Yeah, that's
pretty good.
Pretty good. So we got a lot to break down and get into here on this edition of 580 Sports Talk, and we are going to talk about the Royals today. We are.
Oh yeah!
It's a Wednesday. It's October 25th.
Jake Newberry
is well. We're gonna get to some Royals news.
Jacob Junis
breaking down losing Tucker Davidson on a waiver claim to the Baltimore Orioles.
Absolutely not.
Cam Gallagher, where is he now?
I don't care. He's a good dude.
Cleveland.
So we will get to that as well.
Didn't hit there either.
Mm-hmm. Let me know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Also, check us out on YouTube. You can go to our YouTube page, get to the YouTube stream. Let us know your comments in the YouTube section. Easy to get to. Go to 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. You can just type in youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Easy stuff to interact with us today. Some news coming from the Kansas City Chiefs. Justin Ross and Justin Watson practicing today. Watson with an arm brace. Big Mike Pennell back for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Good for him.
He is the band, though, is not getting back together, folks. We almost got the entire band of NSYNC back, during that terrific Super Bowl run. But no, Frank Clark will not be coming back to join the band. He's going to join another band. He's like the lead singer of Blink-182.
He's going to join his other old band.
He's going to join the other band. Frank Clark going to be joining the Seattle Seahawks. Try to get that band up and running in the NFC.
This man hates new experiences. He is me flipping through Hulu.
He right.
God.
Like, man, they got all this new original programming, but I'm going to rewatch New Girl.
I have no problem with that.
Man, I could watch something new. Or I could just rewatch Frasier.
Frank said, I tried something new. I went to Denver. They had horses and mountains. Yeah. That was cool. Now I want to go back somewhere I'm more familiar with. And Seattle needed a pass rusher. They lost Uchenna Nwosu for the year.
They do.
So they are down bad. And hopefully by the time January rolls around, I expect the Seahawks to be one of the 7 playoff teams in the NFC. And then he'll turn into prime Deacon Jones like he always does.
Like he always does. And he'll set the playoff sack record. He'll pass Bruce Smith.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the funniest thing ever if he retired as the all-time leader in playoff sacks?
That'd be wild. That would be wild. So the band not getting back together, but some of the band is. But we've talked about the defense and how the defense is turning into a top 5 defense and how they are going to be that much more dynamic with Charles Omenihu, and even Chris Jones said. It was funny when they asked, are you starting to get used to playing next to Charles? And Chris Jones had to say to the media, well, you guys remember I didn't partake in training camp this year. So this is the first time that he's lined up next to Charles Omenihu.
Have they even met? Like, Omenihu couldn't be in the building during the suspension, right?
Yeah.
Like they probably hadn't met.
Hey, I'm Chris. Hey, I'm Charles. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna be lining up next to you. Sure looked like they've been lining up.
Did we just become best friends?
I think they did. They're going to go do karate in the garage. So that was funny today with what Chris Jones said. We've talked about the defense, how it's going to get better. But The offense starting to uptick a little bit right now. And the main reason why, if you really think about it, one, Travis Kelce is a freak. It's incredible what he's able to do.
Did you watch his mic'd up, by the way?
I have not. It's 5 minutes long.
It is 5 minutes and 37 seconds long, which is a lot for my tiny little pea brain attention span. It's pretty good. He's a good mic'd up, though. And he's very loud. He's like best friends with the entire roster. And maybe Matt Nagy. He's just happy with everyone. It's a good watch. If you haven't seen it, it's on all the Chiefs social media.
Like he's got a girl that he really likes, obviously. He's playing well.
She wore his friendship bracelet, by the way.
Exactly. Why wouldn't he be happy and excited? He just bought a $6 million mansion. He outbid me for it. Gosh. Thought I had it, guys. I was gonna break the news to you. I put in a bid of $5 million on a mansion in Leawood and got a call from my realtor. It was like, Jake, I got some bad news. I'm like, what's going on? They said, somebody outbid you. I go, can you tell me who? And they're like, no, according to real estate law, we can't. And I said, and then I found out today it was Travis Kelce. Come on, man.
A lot of people thought that was Taylor Swift buying the house. A lot of people thought that Taylor Swift was going to buy a house in Leawood, Kansas.
Hey, it is the Orange County of the Midwest.
Hey, $6 million to Taylor Swift's like a quarter for me and you. So
this is true.
Does it really matter?
Yeah.
Does it really matter?
I got a fall home in the Kansas City suburbs.
I gotta get to them Sunday games, man.
I got a weekend home.
It's my
Leawood.
April through June and October, November home. When it's nice there.
One of those like bachelor pad setups, TV sitting on the floor, nothing plugged into it but a GameCube.
Recliner.
Lawn furniture, like lawn chairs.
No, you gotta have at least one comfy chair for you.
Okay, yeah, probably.
There's a putting green in the backyard.
Little futon.
Yeah. But
it's a wine cellar. You think Travis Kelce needs a wine cellar?
Yes.
Do we know if he's a wine guy?
I think he's a wine guy.
I think you make a certain amount of money, you just be a wine guy because the money got to go somewhere.
It comes with the house at that price.
Buy this wine. What can I spend this money on? What do you get the man who has everything? Wine.
Expensive wine.
LeBron James, big wine guy.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah. Do you think he was drinking a lot of wine?
Year two? No.
Yeah. Coming up on the come up in Akron.
No.
He was drinking a lot of wine.
No. He poured it out for the homies. No. Now he's getting that.
That's a taste you acquire. There's something about the smell of money that makes you desire wine.
That's dude. I need a good Merlot. I need a good cab. Yeah, the only thing that I do now is a good cab. I mean, an '89 cab up there, in the wine country.
Travis Kelce perusing the miscellaneous reds aisle.
Yeah, you ain't gonna see Travis drinking no Riesling. Come on now, college wine drinkers.
You go downstairs, just rows and rows of cupcake.
If he does, if there's a single bottle of cupcake in Travis Kelce's wine,
that's that
get
new
him
money.
out of there.
That's that new money. Cupcake in the wine cellar.
All right.
Here. I have never heard of cupcake wine before. I'm going to be honest with you.
God.
But I just discovered you can buy it from something called wine.com.
Oh, you can get wine.
Yeah, you buy any kind of wine from
wine.com.
wine.com.
Anywhere nowadays, man. Wine subscriptions are big. They're big.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sent to your house and everything. Oh, yeah. But
Wine of the Month Club.
Travis Kelce is part of the reason why the offense is doing much, much better. But if you look recently, would you say the last two games for the Kansas City Chiefs, the offense has started to tick up a little bit? Broncos did well from the 20 to the 20. Well, someone has really started to be a more focal point of the offense. And he is rookie Rashee Rice. 72 yards against the Broncos, 60 yards against the Chargers. He's got 2 touchdowns in his last 3 games. He had 33 yards against the Minnesota Vikings. It is not a coincidence that Rice's snap counts have gone from 30%, 49%, 59% against the Chargers this year.
That was a season high, 59% of the snaps.
He's playing a lot more. He's being targeted a lot more. 6 targets in the game. And remember, he's the only Chief that has caught a pass, positive pass, in every single game this year. Rice is now starting the trend of being in, Dan, the circle of trust, the nest, the trust tree. And that to me is not a coincidence. That is to me a correlation of the Chiefs' offense starting to be a little bit better. But Dan, also you found this out when it comes to Rice in his rookie year, he's already a top wide receiver in this league.
So ESPN Analytics put their receiver tracking metrics online yesterday. And so they use the player tracking data from Next Gen Stats, and they evaluate every route a pass catcher runs, and they score the performance. There's an open score, there's a catch score, and there's a yak or yards after catch score. And those 3 scores are then combined into one score. So they're out of 100. They're 1 through 99, basically. So the highest score you can get in any metric is a 99. The highest rated wide receiver in receiver tracking metrics in the league this year is A.J. Brown of the Eagles. He's a 96. He's way ahead of the field.
He's really good
on the scale. A.J. Brown's having a monster year. He scores an 82 in open, a 90 in catch, and a 62 in yak. He's really good at everything. The other top wide receivers are more or less who you'd expect they would be. Brandon Ayuk is number 2. DJ Moore of the Bears is number 3. The surprises are the 2 guys from Houston. Tank Dell and Nico Collins are 4th and 5th. And this is in, again, total score. And then you have CeeDee Lamb, Adam Thielen, Jamar Chase, Chris Godwin, Keenan Allen. That's your top 10. If you made a list of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL, just off the top of your head, you would include a lot of those guys. You would include Chase. You might include Lamb. You might include Allen. You'd certainly have A.J. Brown. Mike Evans is 12th. Garrett Wilson is 13th. The highest rated tight end is Travis Kelce. You will be stunned to hear that he rates the highest of any tight end on the wide receiver tracking metrics. He's the 14th rated wide receiver out of 109 who've run enough routes.
He's a tight end.
He's a tight end.
He's a tight end.
George Kittle 1 spot behind him at number 15. Anyway, you don't have to scroll far from Kelce to find Rashee Rice. Out of 109 eligible receivers for this list who've run enough routes to be tracked and have enough data to be tracked, Rashee Rice ranks 25th in the league in total score, and he's 5th in the league in yards after catch score. And 25th in the league, the neighborhood he lives in, the guys who are ranked around him, 22nd is Stephon Diggs. 24th is Deebo Samuel. 27th, tied actually with Rashee Rice, is Justin Jefferson. He's ahead of Cooper Kupp. He's ahead of Devontae Adams. He's ahead of some really good players on this particular ranking. So what it tells you is that Rice's performance rates really favorably among his peers, and in particular, where he excels relative to his peers, and this is what we thought coming out of college, is his ability to make things happen after the catch.
And you're starting to see that for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's what the Chiefs want. If you look at it now, unless you are the elite of the elite, the best way to bring production in the NFL is yards after the catch. It's not like even 5-10 years ago where it was, the best way to get a deep, big gain is just the deep ball. That's not the case anymore. The case now is, can you get in space, running a crossing route, catching it, and getting upfield? I mean, that's why Deebo Samuel got a $90 million contract, is because that's what he can do. And if you're the Chiefs, I think you're going to see him get the football more often. You really, really are. He's the guy with the highest ceiling for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we know this. The Chiefs, slowly but surely, bring on young rookie wide receivers at a slower pace. That's what they've always done. And Rice seems to be catching on a little bit more because he's a lot more physical as well. Sky Moore is not big at all, and he's a different receiver than Rice. When just the way Rice is more of a power guy and Moore is more of a route runner. Unfortunately, he's not a NFL good route runner because he can't get separation. Maybe technically he's a good route runner, but he doesn't have the physical tools to get himself open enough to do that. If you are the Kansas City Chiefs, I think this is the time where Rice ends up a little bit higher in terms of snaps, which is at 59%. The interesting thing about this is when you look at the snaps that have occurred in the game against the Chargers. Now, this is a big game against the Chargers. It's in division team. We know that, right? Here are your leading wide receivers. Valdez-Scantling played in 69% of the snaps. Sky Moore, 60%. Rice, 59%. Those are your leading wide receivers. So those are your top three in the game. Not a surprise because MVS is the veteran guy. And overall, I think Mahomes does trust him. And you got to give credit where credit is due. He had a big game. I mean, he made a big-time play. He's the one that helped out on the scramble rule. He was on the other side of the field, saw Mahomes running, and he did the opposite of what McCole Hardman always does. McCole Hardman just kind of chills there. He took off running at an angle to the corner of the end zone, and Mahomes found him for an easy touchdown. And that was an easy play.
And that's the element this offense has been missing is the other end, other than Kelsey, who's going to be on the other end of those scramble drill throws. So I thought that was a big step in the right direction that they hit on one of those plays. It was MVS hitting on one of those plays.
Right before we went on the air, right before the 2:00 hour, the Kansas City Sports Network, KC Sports Network, put on Twitter, notable rookie receivers through 7 games under Andy Reid. They've got a list of 6 here. Deshaun Jackson had the most yardage of any rookie under Andy Reid, 505 yards through 7 games with 1 touchdown. Deshaun Jackson for his whole career was
big play,
deep threat guy, was run straight and go catch it and return punts. That was Deshaun Jackson.
I mean, you could argue Deshaun Jackson for the entirety of his career is a borderline Hall of Famer.
I mean, he was the best at what he did.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he'll get in, but he was elite at it.
Jeremy Maclin, 293 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jeremy Maclin had a nice career. Really did.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill's one of the best receivers in the NFL. 223 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was mostly a deep threat early on, and he also was dealing a lot with special teams at the time. He wasn't even a full-time wide receiver, and we know who he is. McCole Hardman, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. We remember after his rookie year thinking, like, oh, my God, he's the next Deshaun Jackson. He's the next Tyreek Hill because he just kept catching 60-yard touchdowns. Sky Moore, 100 yards, 0 TDs. We've been over that. And Rashee Rice now, 305 yards, 3 touchdowns through 2 weeks. Of all those guys on that list, in terms of like complete wide receiver, I mean, Tyreek Hill's one of the best in the league, but like, who's to say Rashee Rice couldn't be the second best on that list? Like, given what we know about those other guys' careers and what we've seen out of Rice and projecting him going forward.
The interesting thing, too, about this is I'm not surprised that Hardman got 11 snaps. Not a huge. Got two targets, though. It is Kadarius Toney. 19%. He played in 13 offensive snaps in that game. 13. That is it. The only thing I can think of is he's not healthy. Because if he's not healthy, then the Kansas City Chiefs evaluation of Kadarius Toney was a big whiff. Big whiff.
You mean if he's healthy and he's only playing that?
Yes. Yeah. If he's hurt, it's understandable. 19% of snaps. I understand that. And we do know he has been dinged up, but I hope so. I do, because they were talking like he is our number one guy.
That was all the talk this
that is a huge deal right now to see the snap counts of Kadarius Toney going forward, because he has been an absolute non-factor for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. That to me is the best case scenario is the Chiefs have found a good one in Rice. Like that's a good situation. So far, I mean, he's on pace for 600, 700 yards, maybe if he has a big time game, we're looking at 750, right? That's a good year for a rookie. Well, Kadarius Toney is that's the one, like, more so than Sky Moore. It's Kadarius Toney. More so than MVS. It is Kadarius Toney on the biggest concern for the Kansas City Chiefs and the wide receiver core. MVS is who he is at the end of the day. Because what does MVS have right now? Probably 200 yards receiving, 300 yards receiving. He's going to end up with his 600 yards receiving that he always does.
I mean, the week before, he only had one target.
Yeah.
And he's still, I mean, he's playing more snaps than any wide receiver on the team. And yeah, he had that whole game against the Broncos where he had one target.
What does he got right now?
10 catches for exactly 200 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah. So he's on pace for, he'll get his 600 yards. He'll have another big game. He will. That's what he's going to do.
He's on pace for like 485 right now.
Well,
so he's going to have another big game.
He'll have a big game because he always does.
To your point about Tony, Jake, I don't think he's probably 100%, and it hasn't seemed like he has been. Just watching the plays that are for him, like when we've seen him in jet sweep situations, plays where he's trying to get to the edge, plays where like those quick outs where generally he's so quick, he's able to get a lot more separation, and he just hasn't gotten the kind of separation or the kind of acceleration it seems like that he typically has. They're going to need him because when they run the pre-snap motion, you have to respect the motion man as more than a decoy. Like that's to use an example from a team I watch a lot. The Seahawks use Jake Bobo as their motion man. Jake Bobo ran a 4.840 at the combine. He's not taking a jet sweep, right? If he's in motion, he's blocking. He's blocking for a run play. Everybody in the world knows that. So for the Chiefs, when they run Sky Moore in pre-snap motion, you don't really have to follow Sky Moore. Kadarius Toney's a dangerous man in motion. And he has to continue being that to unlock some things for the Chiefs offense. But I don't know that he has been 100% to this point. Hopefully a reduced snap load these next couple of weeks and then the bye. Maybe that's the thing where in the second half we start to see more of him.
And this was the concern with Kadarius Toney. He can't stay healthy. And that's part of how you evaluate who you're going to trade for and who you're going to put all your eggs in your basket. It's part of it.
Lori on Twitter, on YouTube, on the YouTube comments, and shout out to Lori. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Asked if Toney should be traded. And that's an interesting thought to maybe try and recoup some of the draft capital that you've lost in the last calendar year.
I don't think you're going to get anything for him.
Well, here's a follow-up point. Interesting. Sam also in the YouTube comments responded and said, I don't know that Toney's worth much to other offenses. And I kind of see the argument there. Like, what is more valuable to the idea of Kadarius Toney to another team after already seeing the Giants not have any idea how to use him, or what he provides to the Chiefs right now? And it might be the latter, honestly.
When they signed McCole Hardman, that was one thing I thought of. I was like, do they not think Kadarius? I thought Kadarius Toney, first of all, because they're, to me, very similar players. They really, really are. Coming up next, we will get to a little bit more trade deadline news in the NFL. We are just about a week away. Then we'll get to our high school athletes of the week. Welcome back into 580 Sports Talk. Jake, Dan, Brendan with you on this Wednesday. We've got some trading buzz happening when it comes to the NFL. The NFL is starting to get a little bit more fun at the trade deadline. It really, really has, which is kind of nice. But according to Dan Graziano and a few other ESPN analysts, if you will, a lot of the names that are being thrown out: Jerry Jeudy, Hunter Renfrow, Dalvin Cook, Carl Lawson, a few others, Brian Burns, Derrick Henry, and DeAndre Hopkins. I don't see the Chiefs trading for any more wide receivers. I really, really don't. In fact, I don't see the Chiefs trading for anybody the rest of the way. I don't, and the reason why is they need to keep cap space available for break glass in case of an emergency. Chiefs only have $3 million in cap space right now. If something does go wrong, you got to be able to fix it then, like adding a player, adding somebody here if you are the Kansas City Chiefs. That's why I don't see the Chiefs adding anybody else, going forward. Another one, Courtland Sutton. He could be on the move from the Denver Broncos. The Ravens could be a team to go after and get somebody like Courtland Sutton. So there are a lot of names being thrown out at the positions that the Chiefs could get help with. I just don't see it happening right now. I really, really don't.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see one for the Chiefs. I mean, where do they need help the most? It's wide receiver, but you've already added a wide receiver this year. You traded for one a year ago. I mean, I guess if there's a deal out there, would I be shocked if they moved a fifth to get DeAndre Hopkins? No, I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised, but
his cap hit
is possible.
His cap hit's not big.
No,
that's the interesting thing. Also, the other name is, and this is from Graziano, someone like Marquise Brown.
We talked about that last week. I think that name's been connected to the Chiefs a lot, and I don't,
and a lot of ESPN, it would be a good fit. Knowing the Chiefs, they would want Arizona to cover about all of the salary, which could be a non-starter. That one is not going to happen because his cap hit is so big because he's making $13 million this year.
If the Chiefs are going to make a move for a wide receiver, it's not going to be a guy, in my opinion, who you point to as that's a wide receiver one or even like a true number two. And the reason I say that is that I don't think the Chiefs are in the business right now of overhauling what they want to do offensively in terms of snap counts, in terms of personnel groupings and things like that. Like Kadarius Toney, they had that piece last year, and we heard all offseason like, oh, he is wide receiver one, but he's not that true. Like, he's your X receiver. You've got to throw him the ball 10 times plus per game receiver.
That's where the ball's going on 3rd and 9.
Yeah,
receiver. No,
and like you've got to get him the ball. You've got to feed him in that way. I don't know that Hollywood Brown is good enough to demand that kind of attention at the NFL level, but he has been that sort of guy the two places he's been. Granted, it's maybe just because there's been no one else good around him. I don't think the Chiefs are going to end up adding a guy like that. And I still think Hopkins commands that kind of attention, and deservedly so. That's not a knock on him. He's been that kind of player. I just don't think the Chiefs would add a guy like that. The same goes for a Jerry Jeudy. I think he'd be too high profile. His role would not be quite within line with what the Chiefs want to do.
It would fit.
Same with Sutton.
I don't think he fits the locker room culture in Kansas.
Well, he fits it though because he drops passes.
If you were going to name a receiver that I think could make some sense, and it won't happen because it's within the division, I think you could actually make an argument for Renfrow. Maybe not a great one, but if you're looking for truly like, hey, it's 3rd or 4th down and less than 5 yards, and we need somebody who is going to get open for somewhere between 5 and 8 yards, Hunter Renfrow is actually a good option for that. Now, I don't think the Raiders would make that move, but I could actually, I could see an argument for
the only other guy who would be really good 5 to 8 yards. He retired Jason Witten.
Well, I mean, that's money.
Yeah,
right
Renfro's as good as it gets running that like whip jerk route. Those sort of concepts. I don't think the addition for the Chiefs, if it happens at all, is happening at wide receiver. I think that's already happened. I think Mecole Hardman was that addition. I think, though, that the defensive line is a more interesting place to look because you can never have too much depth in the trenches. Like, look at the Eagles last year. An unbelievable defensive line. They still brought Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh in at the midway point of last year. Like, they still found ways to bulk up what was already a strength, controlling the trenches, getting pressure, stopping the run, those kinds of things that you need a defensive line to do. I think the Chiefs could still look at their mix and say, we could stand to add one more body. Obviously, it's not going to be Frank Clark, who they could have probably had for pretty cheap, but it's not going to be him. Could it be somebody else? Would Carl Lawson make some sense? Sure. I don't know that Brian Banks makes a ton of sense, because I don't think the Chiefs are going to make a blockbuster move and send out a first or a second round pick. And that's what it's going to cost to go get Brian Burns, if not multiple first round picks for Brian Burns.
Under different circumstances, and I know this is like, grass had wheels would be a bicycle, but like, there's a scenario in which I would have said I would take a flyer on Terrace Marshall from Carolina. I find him to be a very interesting player, and I think what he has shown before has been really tempting. But right now, I don't think if you're the Chiefs and you're looking at a receiver, you're taking a flyer on a guy who's A, got an injury history, and B, has been inconsistent. If they hadn't added Kadarius Toney a year ago or brought back McCole Hardman, I would say that's an interesting one. But that's the one wide receiver who I think would pique my interest the most. Defensive line-wise, I think I'm in agreement. You can't ever have enough players. You can't. I love defensive lines that can send everybody in and out. Like, you could have 4 in on first down, 4 in on second down, and a mishmash of them on third. Like, I love defensive lines that can do that kind of rotation.
Chiefs are almost at that point right now.
They're dang close to it.
Yeah. Coming up next, we'll get to our high school athletes of the week. State champs, the Hayden golf team, coming up next.
It is time for our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. We've got a full team that we are honoring this week. The Hayden girls golf team, which won the 4A state championship back on the 16th and 17th in Salina by a grand total, the 14th and 15th, misspoke there. But 2 weeks ago, by 37 strokes over the second place finisher, they ended up with 4 different individuals who all finished in the top 23 of the event. It was a tremendous run all season long for the Hayden girls, who also won the City League championship. No one else had won that title from Washburn Rural in over a decade. So a great season for Hayden. We got to talk all about it with their head coach, Jason Duncan, who is kind enough to join me today. So without further ado, let's get to our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week, the state champions in girls Class 4A golf. That is the Hayden Lady Wildcats. Our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week are the Hayden girls golf team, who picked up a dominant win 2 weeks back in Salina, a 37-stroke victory at the 4A state tournament to bring home the state championship crown. And to talk all about that state title win, we welcome in the head coach of Hayden girls golf, Jason Duncan. Jason, thank you for taking some time for us today. And the first thing I've got for you is looking back on that state championship tournament in Salina, in what was such an impressive weekend for your entire squad. When was the moment during that weekend when you knew, or at least felt like, you guys were going to come away and win that state title?
I felt pretty good after day one. We got out to a 13-stroke lead after the first day, but the front nine on the second day, we really played well. I think we went 37, 37, 38, 40, 41, 42 to start off, and at that point we had ran it out to about a 45 to 50 stroke lead. And you knew then that all you had to do was get in without making a major mistake.
What did you think, or what did you notice about the mentality of your team after that first day when you got out to such a hot start, had so many individuals who we'll talk about in a moment here who were just crushing the ball and were so locked in? What did you think of the way they were able to stay locked in between those 2 days going into day two? Because I think in those situations, it's easy to rest on your laurels a little bit or look a little bit too far ahead to the trophies at the end. What did you think of the way your group responded and kept the foot down on the pedal?
Well, I think it's has a little bit to do with our schedule. We play a pretty tough schedule, and we go against quality competition week in and week out through our 10 tournament schedule. So from that first day to the second day, we didn't change anything. Our warm-ups stayed exactly the same as they have all year. Everything that we do was exactly the same. I just felt like we came out and felt like it was another tournament, and we had fared well in the year, so we had some confidence. And they wanted to win more than I did, and I think it showed there with their precision there that second day.
We're chatting with Jason Duncan, head coach of the Hayden girls golf team, state champions in Class 4A. They are our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. And speaking of that schedule you guys play throughout the year, I was going back to late September, I believe it was, when you guys took down the entire rest of the city of Topeka and notably Washburn Rural to win the city championship for the year. The first time in a decade that a program other than Rural had won that crown. Was it around then, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little bit later, when you and your girls realized that, hey, this is just the beginning of what we can accomplish this year?
Yeah, that was a big tournament for us. They've never been beaten. So not only was it a decade, they've won every city title since it was invented. So since it started. So we wanted to win that one last year. That was kind of a bookmarked tournament for us. We won Baser by 72 shots. We won state by 37. We went to McPherson against a really good field and won that by 23. So we had some landmarks in our schedule there that we met. So yeah, I think beating Rural at City was pretty big, but there were some other tournaments in there that also gave us some confidence. I think we won 6 tournaments on the year, and really the only team around here that was better than us was probably Manhattan High.
You told Brent Maycock of Keisha Covered that you thought your group was the best team in Class 4A all year long, but you can't just think about it. You've actually got to go out and you've got to do it. That was the quote you gave those guys. And I'm curious, when did you know? What point did you realize this is the best team in the state? And I'm confident that my girls, my team, they are the very best of the best. And when do you think your team realized that as well?
Last year we took third in state, and we didn't play that well in the state tournament. it was a cold tournament. We never really got to rolling, but we had all 6 of those players back. And I said, let's do something a little bit different this summer. Let's go somewhere for a team camp and kind of simulate a state tournament. So we went down to Auburn Hills for a couple of days and played in a Central Links tournament just to simulate what a state tournament would look like against some really good competition. And we fared well down there this summer. And you could just see the work ethic they were putting in. You know, they were making sure they were playing. They've done everything I asked them to do through the summer and the fall. So I just felt good about it the whole time. You know, I think we had 6 golfers in the top 23 of the state as far as scoring average in our classification. So, you know, 6 in the top 23 every day, but throughout the season they were. And so I was pretty confident most of the year, and you just don't want to get ahead of yourself because anything can happen in golf or any sport for that matter.
You guys had so many strong individual performances all season long, obviously, and certainly at the state tournament. And you look at players like Hannah Reynoldson, as well as Avery Grunert, toss in as well Izzy Glotzbach, as well as Lauren Bourgeon. And I know that's just, you know, scratching the surface of the kind of production you guys had throughout the season. But what can you say about especially the veterans in that group who came back, who experienced that run last year, came back with that hunger to succeed again this year? Just what stands out to you about that veteran class and what they were able to accomplish this year?
Yeah, you're only as good as your leaders, and they were our leaders. You know, they were the kids that after practice they might go play 9 more holes. They were the kids that on the weekend we have them bring a scorecard on Monday, and the scorecard was always there right in my hands as soon as practice started on Monday. Their leadership was exceptional. They had some big tournaments. They all throughout their careers won tournaments. You know, Hannah she has a beautiful golf swing, and she's out there practicing her golf swing more than anybody else. Avery's kind of the athlete of the group. Avery's out there just playing tough, and she's grinding out every par she can, and you can see it on her face how hard she's working. And then you got Kylie, the other senior. She was kind of our what I call our safety blanket. I mean, if somebody had a bad round, Kylie was right there to pick us up because it's very rare that you have a 6th person that scores that well. So our seniors were fantastic. But then you take a look at the 2 sophomores and a junior. Those might be the 3 most talented girls on the team. Izzy, Lauren, and then the steps that Addie made this year were incredible. She took 15 strokes off her scoring average, and so we had a good team. We got a bright future, and you know, but you tip your hat to the seniors for leading the way for us.
Just a couple more questions for Hayden Girls head golf coach Jason Duncan joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. The Hayden Girls are Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week after picking up a dominant victory in Salina to take home the 4A Girls Golf crown this year. The commitment that your group has shown, Jason, and you mentioned, you know, Avery Grunert, we know, is on the basketball team in Hayden. I know a lot of these girls play multiple sports, and obviously high school students, athletes, they are busy with a lot of things over the course of the year. So how impressive was it to you? How impressed were you by the commitment of this group from freshman class through senior class to year-round be working on it to get back to this point and to take that accomplishment to the next level?
Yeah, it is something. You know, I talked about the summer camp we went to. Well, I sent out a thing and said, let's try something different. You know, and the parents within an hour all said, we're in, we're ready to make it happen. The girls, you know, they just would do what was asked. I'd say, hey, let's go to these. You guys should play these 5 summer tournaments. Get some extra holes in. They would play the 5 summer tournaments plus an extra one. You know, we have 2 of them are dual sporters. All the rest of them play generally a different sport. You know, I think Addison's maybe the only one that only plays golf. So they're athletes on top of being golfers. It was just a great group, and I call it lightning in a bottle.
The last thing I've got for you then, Jason, is you look back on the state tournament, but really this entire season and what your group was able to accomplish. What do you think is or will be the lasting memory when you take a moment down the line and you look back on what you guys were able to accomplish this year? What do you think is going to be that one landmark thing that really stands out in your mind?
I think our consistency. You know, we spent a lot of time on trying to eliminate 3 putts, 2 chips, and penalty strokes. That was kind of our motto. And we did it across the board. The improvement from, every girl improved in their scoring average throughout the last 2 years. And then we would go to these tournaments, and if one of them had a little hiccup, it didn't bother us because we were consistent across the board. Our depth was outstanding. To be able to win tournaments by that a margin throughout the year just showed that we had a heck of a team.
And what a margin it was in the state tournament. A 37-stroke win for the Hayden girls as they pick up the 4A state championship in girls golf this year. They are our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. And to talk all about this incredible championship season for Hayden, their head coach, Jason Duncan, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time for us. We really appreciate it. Congratulations to you, and congratulations to your girls on a phenomenal year.
Hey, I appreciate it.
That is Jason Duncan, the head coach of Hayden Girls Golf. They are our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. A 37-stroke win to come away with a state championship. Pretty impressive. Very impressive.
That's not too shabby.
It had been more than 10 years since anyone had taken, and as Jason told us, never before had anyone been the city golf champions other than Washburn Rural in girls golf until this year. And Hayden ran away with it. They dominated in that competition as well. So shout out to the Hayden girls for picking up their 4A state title. And again, for being our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. Appreciate Coach Duncan hopping out with us and spending some time with us on this Wednesday afternoon. That just about does it for the first hour of 580 Sports Talk. Coming up, though, we've got a very busy 3 o'clock hour for you. We will hear from head coach Andy Reid. We'll play One Gotta Go as we do every Wednesday afternoon. And the World Series matchup is set. The Arizona Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers will either have a team that wins its first World Series in 22 years or a team that wins its first World Series, period. And with the Diamondbacks, of all teams, making it to a World Series with the way their roster is constructed, the way they do their business, and with the Rangers, who also just 2 years ago had over 100 losses. With those two teams both in the World Series just 2 years after being 100-loss-plus teams, what excuses are left for the Kansas City Royals? The answer is none. And frankly, we don't have to get all the way into this part of the discussion. There should never be any excuse for any professional sports franchise to go in the tank for this long when you've got the means to go out and pay for whatever players you would like at any given time. There's no excuse ever, but especially the case now. And I'm sure you have a unique perspective on that, Dan, considering the fact that you are very against the concept of the Diamondbacks playing for a World Series.
Extremely so. It's been an interesting evening and morning and afternoon in my Twitter mentions today.
Yeah, people are really upset. One way or the other, there are a lot of folks who are really upset about this World Series.
I just hate that baseball fan is now please like my sport fan when confronted with the reality that most people do not want to watch a mediocre team play for a championship.
I feel like there was a lot of arguing over the stance that I know you and I both share, which is that the playoff should be smaller. 162-game regular season should mean more. I've accepted it. It is what it is. I don't like it, but it is whatever. And I understand why there's a lot of aggression and anger about it. But at the same time, to then be upset about it and have people come at you and say, no, it's actually good. I don't like that. Well, just let me like what I like.
And the problem is, you said, the Royals are out of excuses. I'm going to lay out in the 3 o'clock hour why actually what the Diamondbacks have done is give the Royals an excuse to keep doing what they've been doing.
Okay. And
it's an excuse they're going to take, and they will not be alone in taking it.
I think I know where you're going with that, and I think I have something I'd like to add onto it that more than anything is just going to paint Dayton Moore in a bad light when we get right down to it. That and much more is coming up in the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk.
Vanity Sports Talk coming to you on this Wednesday. Jake, Brendan, Dan with you. We are going to hear from Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid coming up here in just a little bit. We will play One Gotta Go coming up as well. We'll talk with Tim Fitzgerald, get his thoughts on K-State taking on Houston. You buying the Cougars? Buying the Cougars right now? Big game, you know, took Texas to the wire, playing with confidence. You buying the Cougs?
No,
No,
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
I don't think Houston's getting up for K-State like they got up for Texas, if I had to be honest with you. And that's not a slight at K-State, but hits a little bit different. Not quite the same bad blood. That's just my opinion, though.
A lot of bad blood between Houston and Texas?
I think there's bad blood between everyone in Texas and Texas.
Also, Houston's on the road. There's that too.
Yeah, that's also true. No, I think K-State's going to handle their business.
Yeah, no, it was more so. Do you think Houston's going to, you know,
what a dumb question?
bring the fight to
They'll be competitive.
You know.
I mean, it'll help them. And this has not been the case for a lot of K-State's opponents recently, but they'll have their starting quarterback. Like, that's worth noting that K-State beat up a backup last week. They beat up a backup when they played UCF. Donovan Smith's not a backup. He's an experienced quarterback in this league. He's capable. I just don't think he's going to go into Bill Snyder Family Stadium and engineer an upset victory.
I got no problem with that. Dan, and I know you guys talked about this just a little bit before the top of the hour. We're going to talk a little baseball, right? And we're going to talk about the Royals, okay? And we're not going to talk about trades. We're not going to talk about any of that.
Not going to talk about their decision to outright Tyler Cropley to AAA today?
No.
More like Tyler Crapley.
Wow, rude.
Rack.
More like I don't care about that guy. Here's the reason why.
Royal super fan.
Here's this is the part that when I hear guys like JJ Piccolo and Matt Cotrero and all of that talk about, oh, we gotta, you know, this, you gotta get experience. We gotta get guys at bats, you know, this is not an overnight deal. Those cliches, right? You know, steady increase, right? In 2021, the Texas Rangers lost 102 games. The Arizona Diamondbacks lost 110 games. Last year, Texas lost 94 games. Arizona lost 88 games. And I know it's not, you know, apples to apples. I understand that. I do. But Arizona lost 110 games 2 years ago. And in 2 years, they're competitive. Not just competitive. They got in the dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is get in the dance, okay?
It's a bigger dance than it used to be.
I'm not talking about the bigger dance.
I'm saying.
Like, Dan's already salty, I know.
It's a bigger dance than it used to be.
It's a bigger dance.
It's the Manfred spot, the 6th seed.
Here's my problem is you can do it. Like, all this stuff that the Royals talk about, you can do it. Like, the Rangers lost 102 games 2 years ago. They lost 94 games last year. And I know they had, you know, some injuries last year, and it was a tough go of it, okay? I get that. But if you're the Royals, we're going on now, if you want to start with the rebuild in 2018, okay? I mean, this is 6 years later. Like, you shouldn't be doing this right now, because there are ways. You know, the Rangers found a way. You know what the Rangers did? The Rangers said, we're just going to pay for it. We're just going to buy it.
We're going to
buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. And
talent costs money, and we're going to the talent store, and we're coming home with Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and Jacob deGrom, even though that didn't work out, and John Gray, even though he hasn't pitched a ton in the playoffs, and we're going to trade for Max Scherzer.
You're
going to trade for Mitch Garver. Like, they remade their roster and did it largely through free agency.
You know, and well, what do you know? In 2014 and 2015, when the Chiefs were winning, the Royals, the Royals were winning, what were they doing? They were spending money. Their payroll was near 150 million. Like, I that's what frustrates me with this Royals team is you see a team like Texas basically just say, look, I want to win. So you go out and you spend money. And, it worked. Same thing to maybe not to the extent of the Diamondbacks, but they lost 110 games 2 years ago. The Royals have never lost 110 games, yet they went from 110 losses to 88 losses. And now, because of the new playoff structure, because it's, best of three, early on, you can pull upsets in best of three. We talk about a lot. The upset in baseball is not a huge deal because baseball's so fickle. The A's beat the Braves did they sweep them this year? No, they did. They almost did, but the Braves came back, right? So technically, the Braves and the A's, the worst team in the league versus the best team in the league, the worst team in the league took a series out. They would have advanced in the playoffs.
The Diamondbacks are 9-3 in their last 12 games. Do you know who had a 10-1 stretch in the month of September? Including 5 wins out of 6 over a playoff-bound Houston Astros team? The Kansas City Royals.
Well, I know the A's had a good stretch, too, against the Braves and somebody else. But that's a great point. Like,
that's how baseball works, is that over the course of 160, the broader sample size,
yes,
baseball is the kind of game where that kind of stuff happens.
So, to me, I'm not talking about the structure of baseball right now. I'm talking about this is the time. We are in an era right now where in baseball, you can go from the penthouse or the outhouse to the penthouse very quickly. And you get in the dance. Look what happens in the dance. You can pull off some upsets. John Sherman should know this. The 2014 Royals essentially were the Diamondbacks. Like, they got into the dance by getting in the wild card, got on a crazy hot run, because they won 89 games. They won 89 games, I believe, in 2014.
Royals, it was either 88 or 89. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 89.
89 games.
89 and 73.
89 games got you in the dance that year. And what happens? They caught an absolute hot streak, rode some good pitching, rode a good bullpen. Hello, John Sherman. Excuses stop, man. They're done, especially with this format. You can be successful in this format if you just get there. And it doesn't take a lot to just get there. Look at the division you're in. Look at your division. Like the excuses need to stop about, we got to get our, okay, you got your guys' experience. Okay. We're going to go with that. Last year, you guys lost a bunch of games. You went the wrong direction this year because you know what? We're going to get experience. I expect you now to go spend money and be competitive this year. Like, I want you to be good. The Royals should be in the mix in September. And all you have to do is open your checkbook. If I hear John Sherman or Matt Cotrero or JJ Piccolo and all this kind of stuff talk about, we got to do, we're going to try to do this. And you go out and you sign Jordan Lyles, or you go out and you spend $10 million. Like, you're not trying to win. Therefore, why should I care about your product? You're not trying to win. Why should I care about it? Why should I care if you don't care? This is your team. That'd be like if we here just decided not to put any effort whatsoever into a play-by-play broadcast. None whatsoever. I mean, show up without charts, without doing interviews, without talking to coaches, without doing stats.
Grab a program half an hour before the game.
And do the game. That is what John Sherman is doing right now. And he's doing this. But guess what, Dan? What are you getting when you do that? You're getting experience. Hey, I called a game. I called the game on the radio. I'm getting experience. I've done it before. Now I can do it again. No, like this is the perfect example for no more excuses for the Royals. None whatsoever. Go spend money. You have money. And if you don't, okay, then you're there to make a profit. Okay. Then don't tell me that winning matters, because it doesn't to you. Because there's an easy way for you to win, John Sherman. Go spend money.
I hate to tell you this, Jake. It's not the end of excuses for the Royals and teams like the Royals seeing the Diamondbacks reach the World Series. It's the beginning of excuses. It's the continuance of excuses. Because why should an ownership group spend hundreds of $1 million on free agents, like, say, the New York Mets did, or the Philadelphia Phillies have done, or the San Diego Padres have done? Why would you go and do something like that if in October you're in the same spot as the Kansas City Royals? You're watching the World Series at home. Why? What is the impetus now to build a great team if you're just as likely to earn the big reward, a pennant, a chance at a world championship, as a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks, who won 77 games last year? And their big addition to this year's team in free agency, you know what they did in free agency? They went and signed Evan Longoria to a $4 million contract. That was their big free agent acquisition. At the trade deadline, when they were in the thick of it, they went and swapped relief pitchers and went and got Paul Sewald, who's a good pitcher, but they swapped relievers. It's not like they cashed in their trade chips from their minor league system. They traded big leaguers for big leaguers. They went and got Tommy Pham, who didn't even play in Game 5 of the NLCS. That's how important he is to that team's fortunes. And in the end of the day, at the end of the regular season, that team, that Diamondback team, had scored 15 fewer runs than it allowed. They were an 84-78 team with a negative run differential. That is a bang average baseball team that is only in the postseason because Rob Manfred wanted more postseason revenue. And so what then is the impetus for the Royals to say, I want to build a roster like the Rangers. I want to build a roster like what the Phillies have. I want to go get stars. I want to go push my chips into the table and go play with the big boys in free agency, when we can just sit and say, hey, look at the Diamondbacks. We're just waiting on our young guys to develop, and then we can be just like the Diamondbacks. It will be used as an excuse by the Royals and by other teams who are in similar financial situations as the Royals to not spend in free agency, and that's why it's bad for baseball. It's bad for the Royals.
No, I see. I understand your point, but there's a $30 million difference in payroll between the Royals and the Diamondbacks. That's two players. Like, the Royals are not even in the Diamondbacks situation, Dan. Like, they're not even. They're not trying.
But they're
not even trying.
No.
So that's my point. Like, the Diamondbacks, yes, I agree. Everything that you said there, no question. But at least the Diamondbacks have a $120 million payroll. The Royals have a $90 million payroll.
Do you know who the Diamondbacks' highest paid starting pitcher is? He's a very familiar name to Royals fans, and not in no nice way.
Are they still paying Ian Kennedy?
No. You're on the right track. You're barking up the right tree. But no, their highest paid starting pitcher this year is a gentleman by the name of Madison Bumgarner, who pitched as many innings after Memorial Day as you and me and everybody listening to this combined, unless you were listening to this and you are a Major League Baseball player, in which case, hi, what's up? Text the show, 785-272-9429. Out yourself. That is their highest paid starting pitcher. So, like, they gave him 5 years, $85 million, and he's a bum. Like, that's their process.
No, at least they're spending money. Like, that's what I have a problem with. Like, the Royals, yeah, we went out and you spent money on Jordan Lyles. At least the Diamondbacks spent money on a name. They went out and got Madison Bumgarner. At least people like Evan Longoria is at least a name.
Yeah, get your clubhouse excited, right? Get your fans excited. You can sell tickets with those guys.
Instead of just like, that's my problem with this, is that the Diamondbacks did exactly what you said, and I agree with you. And that's more of the structure of Major League Baseball. Because to me, baseball needs to realize, do you want the regular season to matter, or do you want to make money? That's what they need to make a decision on.
They've made that decision.
Well, then you need to, every single decision then needs to be, let's lower games. If figure out a way, because you're trying to generate more revenue, then the regular season does not matter, because it's watered down. But they want more fans to attend. You want to know why? This is all about money. The more teams that are involved in Major League Baseball playoffs, the more the general casual fan is going to be interested. And ready? I'm that guy. I am now a casual fan. Baseball's a regional sport to me. So if my team's not in it, I'm not watching it. Okay. If the Royals are 5 games out in September of the, what did you call it? The Manfred spot, the 6th seed. Guess who's watching?
You are.
I am. And they're doing it for money. But in this situation, just go out and try. If your payroll is not at least the Diamondbacks, because everyone under the Diamondbacks essentially, if you're not near 120 million, you're not trying. I mean, like the Orioles right now at 71 million. That's wild to me that they've got that good of a roster and they're not even like.
Imagine if they had spent money.
Exactly.
Maybe they'd have had a starting pitcher worth a damn and could have won a playoff series this year.
That if I was an Oriole fan, I would be furious right now.
Here's the problem. That's the bigger problem for the Kansas City Royals than money is the fact that their front office sucks. Like, let's be realistic. Like, we can say all we want about how the Diamondbacks, despite paying $30 million more to their players than the Royals do on their payroll, they still are one of the cheaper teams in all of baseball. Here's the thing. They got dudes who can play. Like, Christian Walker was a waiver claim. Christian Walker was a college baseball star who washed out and was a nobody who this year had an OPS plus of 123. Like, they have done a better job, either guys they've drafted, guys that are truly homegrown, like a Corbin Carroll, who is a true homegrown star.
And they drafted him 16th overall in a year. I'm pretty sure the Royals could have had him.
Yeah, like
I'm double checking that right now, but I know he was the 16th overall pick. That was in the 2019 Major League Baseball draft. Who'd the Royals take that year? Bobby Witt Jr. They're happy with who they got in that draft.
That ended up being all right.
Yeah.
But
they got a good player there, at least.
They have got a homegrown drafted star. They found a guy on the scrap heap like Walker, and he's not the only one. They have made acquisitions.
They made a great trade with Toronto to get Gabriel Moreno, their starting catcher, who looks like a really good young player. And they got Toronto to throw in Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who had a really nice year for them in left field.
An above-average year for them in left field. They made a trade. It's been a few years. They were willing to take the risk to trade at the time, high-profile prospect position player, Jazz Chisholm, to the Marlins. They got Zach Gallen back. Jazz Chisholm is now...
He's a good player.
He's a fine player.
But Zach
I'd rather
Gallen's
have
one
Zach
of the
Gallen, though.
5 or 10 best starting pitchers in baseball.
That is the problem. And yes, the easiest way to go and get talent is to find a guy who's already established and say, come work for us. We're going to pay you the best salary. That's obviously the easiest way to do it. And more teams should be doing that. I agree 100%. But there are other ways to find talent, like the Paul Sewald trade. Like that's a smart business move for a good player who was the best reliever in Seattle. They were able to make a trade with Jerry Dipoto. That's always what you should do. Just find the best player the Mariners have and offer a trade.
At the trade deadline, and Jerry Dipoto will call him.
But like that's a smart deadline kind of move. Hell, Evan Longoria was nothing special this year. Slightly below average OPS plus. He only played in 74 games. He is essentially like your 10th man for most of the year. That is the kind of move I have been begging the Royals to make for years. Like someone who's established, who's not going to embarrass you hitting 7th every day or every other day in Longoria's case. Like something like that.
They don't do
you
that,
can
though.
afford a $4 million 35-year-old, 37 in Longoria's case. I'm upset that the Royals do not spend to get the right kind of pieces. They do not make trades and spend capital to get the right kind of pieces. And that is a problem. But it's the fact that the front office, and you can't fully put this on Piccolo, even though he's been around. This is mostly a Dayton Moore problem, and I know he's gone. But it's been awful at finding major league caliber personnel. And now you've got Witt. He is a star. He is nailed on. He should have been extended yesterday. And honestly, he should have been extended like 4 months ago.
In the middle of that
point.
sentence.
Every minute that he's not is a mistake by the front office. You've got him. It looks like Pasquantino, at the very least, is going to be a guy you can start every day and feel good about. Totally cool. You got Short, you got First. And you've got Singer for sure at the front of your rotation.
Reagans.
And Cole Reagan. Yeah, Cole Reagan. That's a good move. That was a smart move. That feels a little bit like Walker, like guy who had maybe been given up on him because of the injury issues. Looks like he's a front of the rotation starter. Awesome. You've got to fill 22 other roster spots. At least Arizona, you can say, hey, Emmanuel Rivera, former Royal. He's not great, but as your 9-hitter or 8-hitter, is that good enough? Sure. The Royals have that for 7 spots in their order.
The Royals have been bad at drafting, where the
Very
Diamondbacks
bad.
have not. They have not scouted overseas or the Caribbean, the Latin America. They've not scouted that very well, where the Diamondbacks have, and that turned up, a starting shortstop in Geraldo Perdomo, who performed fine this year and makes 10, 15-hour plus tips. They went overseas to sign Merrill Kelly, who's one of their 2 good starting pitchers, and apparently that's all you need in October anymore is 2 good starting pitchers and the cast of Real World Road Rules Challenge to throw innings out of the bullpen and just turn into the nasty boys for 3 weeks, and then you've got a pennant winner. My broader concern is that the Royals and all of baseball will take the wrong lesson from the Diamondbacks, because all these nice things we're saying about the Diamondbacks, the great trade they made with the Blue Jays, they won some challenge trades. Like Gallen for Chisholm was a challenge trade. The trade with Toronto was a challenge trade. They've had some good free talent finds. They've scouted well. They've drafted well. All of that to build a team that was the 12th best in baseball this year. But that's all you need to be anymore to play in a World Series, the 12th best team that gets hot for 3 weeks. So what is the incentive for John Sherman, for JJ Piccolo, for the Royals front office to do anything more than aim for being 12th best? That is my concern, is that even if the Royals do the right things and make positive steps and improve their scouting and improve their player development, that they're only going to be willing to go but so far to build a great team, when apparently building a mediocre one that gets lucky in a bunch of one-run games is going to suffice.
That's what I want. I just want them to do it so that they're not an absolute disaster. And right now, you guys said the exact reason why. The Royals don't do this well. The Royals don't do that well. The Royals don't do this well. I agree with that, Ollie. All you have to do is do one thing: pay people. Like, if you want to win, then you either need to get a new GM, change everything else, okay, or go buy a guy, go buy players. Like, there's no excuse. There's none whatsoever.
There's got to be a way to adapt the process, because the process is not working.
They got to do something. Like, if you're 30 million below the Diamondbacks,
this is why the heat has to be on John Sherman.
Yes.
And we've talked about this before, but if you're going to spend all season talking about stadium, Clay County, Jackson County, stadium, give me money for a stadium. You're going to do all that, and then you're not going to put any money into the team. Let me rephrase. You're not going to give JJ Piccolo the go-ahead to spend money to improve your team. I know there's not like a whole lot that fans or media members or anything can actually do about a bad owner, but you've got to steer your anger in that direction, because that is who controls the spigot here. And right or wrong, it's how baseball works. And if you're not willing to actually put the energy into making your team better, then what are you doing? And you don't have to answer that question, because I know what it is, and you're just trying to turn a profit. That's the business sense of it, sure. But then sell the team and let someone who, actually cares about the baseball part of it go. Especially because Sherman's whole thing was, I'm a Royals fan and I just love baseball.
I grew up here. Baseball in Kansas City is important to me.
As a consumer of your team's product, prove that you love baseball. Because right now it sure doesn't look like.
No, give me a better product.
Coming up, we got one got to go here on 580 Sports Talk. Oakland gets me every single time. Like, yeah,
It's a great line.
Jeez, it's so harsh. It just is so harsh. Alrighty, one gotta go. All right, college football playoff. Okay. One gotta go. Oklahoma, Texas, Florida State, or Oregon. One gotta go in terms of make the playoff.
I'm going to go with Texas here. I'm going to kick Texas out. I don't think that they are clearly a better team than Oklahoma. I think they're fairly close to even. I think Oklahoma's playing incredible football right now. Analytically, they're a darling right now, too, especially on offense. I think Texas is really, really good, obviously really talented. I've got coaching questions about them. I think long-term, you've got to wonder what they're going to look like without Quinn Ewers, even for a few weeks. How much does that change things? Florida State is winning, you're in. Like, if you go undefeated, you're going to get in from the ACC. And North Carolina is beatable in that league.
Obviously.
They lost to Virginia.
And it particularly wasn't, they didn't play very good.
I love Washington this year, but you give me another Oregon-Washington game, especially in the Big Pac-12 championship in a neutral site, that's probably a pick 'em. Or you could make an argument, depending on how they play down the stretch. Oregon might even be favored in a game like that. I don't think they're noticeably worse than Washington, so I still think they have a chance. And Oklahoma was your other one? The first one you came with? Yeah.
Florida State, Oklahoma, Texas, and Oregon.
Yeah, and I think OU is better than Texas right now. They're the driver's seat to win the Big 12. So, yeah, I'm going to say Texas.
Yeah, I'm leaning Texas, too, because I think the loss of Ewers probably cost them a game, maybe even in 2 weeks against Kansas State.
Opening days. I'll give you... I'm going to take out... Well, Dan's a hockey fan. I'm going to take out the NHL because we don't spend damn near any time talking about it unless we bring up the 2021 Avs. So, or I guess
2023 Avs are 6-0, baby. So
yeah, that's true. So I'll give you week 1 for college football, NFL week 1, baseball opening day, or God, we don't pay a lot of attention to the NBA. I know you're not a huge NBA guy either, Jake. I'm trying to think of what the next best opening day would be. Give you man, I guess I'll go with NBA. I can't think of a better opening day, like a better start to a season.
Well,
there's no NASCAR fans in this room, so I won't give you a Daytona.
Okay, for me, you should have just stopped at those 3 and let me pick
All right, fine. Pick from those 3.
Because anything else you say, like...
Fine, fair enough.
Yeah.
Pick from those 3.
I would probably...
Daytona would have an argument to stay, honestly. Like your biggest race of the season being your first race.
It's fun. I love the Daytona 500.
In terms of just the overall season, because no game is that great early on, it's college football. Because most teams play, directional U, especially locally here, but you just love college football. Like opening day is fun because it's opening day for baseball.
Yeah.
The start of the NFL is great because it's the best product and the best put together product, equal product. That's why, it is what it is. So if I had to choose between those 3, I would choose college football because college football needs to do a better job of playing better games early.
You get like 3 or 4 that are interesting.
It's always like LSU and somebody, or Bama and somebody, or there's always one
Oregon and
game.
Auburn or something like that.
There's always one good
Florida
game.
State and Virginia
LSU
Tech.
this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you get like 1 or 2 really good games. Where the NFL, like you get the defending champs, that's the whole thing. And then you get the big Sunday night game, you get a big Monday night game usually. Yeah. And then Major League Baseball opening day should be a national holiday. It's the only one of them that should be a national holiday. So yeah, college football. Yeah, that's the one that's got to go.
See, I would take the NFL out, honestly, because there's so much. Like, yeah, it's the excitement of the start of the season, and the Thursday night game features the reigning champs, and they've tried to do a better job getting you a headline Monday night game that week. But like, it's also just kind of another week. Like college football, you only get so many weeks where you get those big non-conference matchups, and even if there's a lot of cupcake games, you still might get a couple of really cool non-conference matchups in that first week of the season. Baseball's just different. Like the start of summer, the hope springs eternal feelings and all of that. The NFL just sort of feels like another week.
Maybe we can be an 84-win team that trips and falls into the World Series. Hope springing eternal on opening day. I've got 5 here for one got to go. I'm bending the rules because there are 5-2 teams in the NFL. One of them's got to go. Miami, Baltimore, Detroit, Jacksonville, and San Francisco. One got to go.
Those are all good teams. I will give you Baltimore, and I think the reason why, because the Lions I think are the worst team of that group, but they also have such a cakewalk division that I think they're going to have very little trouble with their schedule the rest of the way. Jacksonville, I still think needs to figure a few things out. Baltimore just has to play so many tough physical teams. They've been so banged up in recent years. I don't really trust they can stay healthy all the way through the year. Lamar's been great, but I think it's just such a tough road for them. But I would say Baltimore. That's a good question, though. Those are all really good teams.
I think Baltimore's good. I think Jacksonville's going to get better. I'm not ready to sell on the 49ers because their roster's too good. The Lions have a cupcake schedule, so I will go with the Dolphins.
They sounds like there's not great injury news about Tyreek Hill right now. It doesn't sound like he's going to play on Sunday. Him and Raheem Mostert both held out of practice today, and a lot of talk about Tyreek Hill. Like they're talking about him like a person who isn't going to be out there on Sunday. So I don't know.
And that's a guy who wants to be out there in 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. I think
that's a guy.
I think he'd happily cool his heels for Sunday if it meant in Frankfurt he was ready to go.
Yes. Yes.
Of those 5, yeah, like I said, those are all good teams, and you're picking nits, but Detroit has the worst quarterback of the 5. So I would say Detroit would have to go. And then Mills, I forgot about Purdy there for a second. Oh, yeah, I think Detroit's probably the worst of the 5 still. I'll give the roster for San Francisco is so good that at their best, it's irrelevant who's playing quarterback for them. So they got to go Detroit.
Coming up next, we are going to hear from Andy Reid here on 580 Sports Talk. We will hear from Patrick Mahomes coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com joining us in the 4 o'clock hour.
I asked Fitz if he was good to go at our normal time today, and he said he will try to be normal at his time today. So we'll see.
Normal is not what we want from Fitz, I don't think.
I want hot takes.
I want Fitz.
I'm not going to lie to you. Every time that Kleiman has a press conference, Fitz takes a photo of Kleiman mid-question, and then he looks at the photo and then puts his own,
question in it.
Him. It's hysterical.
Somebody replied to that because Fitz does it every week.
Every week
for football. It's very funny.
Every week.
Someone one week replied and was like, "Why are you such a jerk to Coach Kleiman?" And it reinvigorated my belief that you should have to take an IQ test to use the internet. Or at least be able to learn the most basic level of sarcasm or satire.
I will also
Before you send an email to somebody, you should have to pass the Wonderlic.
I will. That's not bad. What needs to happen though is, and I can't believe as a society something hasn't been done. We need a sarcasm font.
No, see, I'm against that because I think if you don't...
No, I know where you're coming from, and you are correct because you understand sarcasm. That you're living in your world where you understand it, and you know that's a joke.
That's fair.
But people in this world don't,
They should be intentionally left out.
Tommy Lee Jones and Men in Black had one of the greatest quotes of all time. A person individually is smart and can get things done. People as a whole, panicky, stupid, idiots, as a group, we really are. Okay?
No argument here.
So that's why we got to protect ourselves and protect the whole. We need a sarcasm font. If we can figure out, italics, and quotation marks, underline, figure out something. We need a sarcasm font that is universally accepted. Like the dollar. There should be something that concrete, like this font, underlined and italicized is sarcasm.
I don't know. I feel like making them suffer. If you can't get this, that ain't on me. Sorry, you don't understand my cunning wit.
Maybe that's your IQ test there. You don't get it. Not dealing with you.
Well, I mean, yeah. It usually is, honestly, on the internet.
Yeah. So, a sarcasm font would be great. It would.
I think we should just stop letting people use computers.
I'm all right with that.
And someone will say, "Ooh, Brenda, does that include you?" Honestly, my life would probably be a lot more pleasant if I wasn't on social media.
I'm telling right. The smartphone is the greatest necessary, or the biggest necessary evil in my entire life. In everybody's entire life. It makes my life easy, but it is evil.
Yeah. That's largely true.
Yeah. Let's hear from Andy Reid. He spoke to the media earlier today, gave a little injury update and more about playing on the Broncos just 2 weeks later.
Right. As far as the injuries go, really, it's Nick Bolton. He had surgery yesterday. He'll be back in Los Angeles. He'll be back here tomorrow. With Justin Ross, just addressing that up front, we're taking in all the information and have been. We'll continue to do that. He's back here. He'll work today. And we'll just take it from there. Other than that, I really don't have any information for you other than what we're gathering and what we've gathered. So, all right, on to the Broncos. We look forward to the challenge of playing them for sure. Even though it just happened a couple of weeks ago, we know the battle that we had with them, and they're a good football team. They're coming off a big win against Green Bay, and where they played well, and we've got to make sure that we get our work done these next few days here before we head up there. So we started that today with the walkthrough, and we'll keep building on that. Anyways, with that, time's yours.
Coach, when you play a team twice in about 3 weeks, a team you know very well. Do you save parts of a plan that you don't show the first game for the second game? How do you work that out?
Yeah, you normally don't do that. No. Yeah. So you start saving things in this business and you got problems. So that is the way I've always looked at it. So you got to, whatever stuff you've got for that game, you put it out there and you go. And then when you play them again, you put your best stuff out there and go. So that's what I've always felt.
Andy, Nick Bolton is legal on IR.
Veach is going through all that now, so I'll get you that information when he finalizes it. But we'll just see. We'll see how it goes. The one positive was he didn't have to have any metal put in there. So that was a positive going forward, and so we just got to kind of check, see how the things go here. But Veach is on top of all that. So.
Justin Ross going to practice? Or
Yeah, he'll practice.
Andy, can you just speak procedurally to how you go about determining keeping somebody out there when something like this comes up, or what is on the mechanics?
Listen, all the situations are different. So, obviously the law enforcement part of it, you listen to what the real details of what went on, and then we keep open communication, Brett, myself, and our people that deal with the law enforcement. So, and then we make the final decision from there.
You didn't mention Justin Watson. I see you expect him to practice today too.
Yeah, he'll be back. Yeah.
When you guys were getting ready for the Broncos a couple of weeks ago, how have you seen them progress year one for Sean? How much better than they've now made it the first time you saw them not long ago?
Yeah, well, Sean made some big moves and letting guys go. And he's a veteran coach. I mean, he did that for a reason. And they made some adjustments on the defensive side. And they're playing good football, And so I don't know what went through all of that, but the last couple of games they've changed up what they were doing before that, and they've had success with it. So, but it's because he's been around, and his defensive coordinator was a head coach. He's been around, so they know how to maneuver, and have done a good job with it.
Andy, with third down conversions, you guys are number one in the league, and with third down and 15 and above, you guys really have a large gap in between other teams. What's made you so successful in third down conversions, especially the long one?
Yeah, well, listen, Matt takes care of all that, Nagy, and he does a great job with it. And then obviously Pat has a huge part of that. I mean, he's special in that area, throwing the ball. I mean, he's very special, and then the receivers and offensive line did a good job. So, but the scheme has been great, and the players have been great.
Coach,
it's the best answer I can give you. But you're only as good as the next one, right? So, make sure you take care of that.
Coach, are you back in the day? Remember when Tony Gonzalez was playing great football at tight end? So it was coincidence, but against the Broncos, they throw Champ Bailey on him. Well, are you ever surprised that you don't see Travis getting that kind of attention? Is there a reason the game has evolved to a point that
Yeah. Well, number 2 jumped on third downs last time we played him. So, that they know who Trav is, and they had a plan there. So maybe you see a little bit more of that, or whatever. But teams are taking and putting good players on Trav or doubling them, and he and Pat they've got a unique chemistry there. So. Yeah.
Is it all that unspoken connection, or are you? I'm not sure. I know you guys drill everything down to the nth degree, or does it take a little? Some of this credit maybe go to your line for doing a little more time for Pat to see how Trav is going to read it.
Yeah, the line does. They do a good job, and then we always talk with the receivers, tight ends, about having that clock in your head. And Trav's got that ability to keep that thing running. How long can I do what I need to do to get open? And Pat stays in tune with that. And so they've got a good connection. I mean, that's what makes them special together. But from a defensive standpoint, you try to put too many guys on one guy, and then the other guys, have a battle. So it can be a tough thing from that side.
Sandy Reid speaking to the media today. Just waiting on all the facts. Justin Ross.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at the no comment there.
Am I the only one that doesn't think that's a big deal? Like, okay, if he gets in trouble, then cut him. Like, he's not like if he's talking about Kadarius Toney, or if he's talking about Rashee Rice, or talking about Trent McDuffie, or talking about, like a good player. Like, people still think Justin Ross is, the second coming of.
But if you cut him, you're sending the message as an organization that you only care about domestic violence if the player is expendable.
But that's that's the NFL.
I mean, it's not new. It wouldn't be new
NFL.
or earth-shattering, but it would be insulting.
Well, no, it's just be better than your problems, man. Like, people are acting as if Justin Ross is the reason they're going to go to the playoffs this year.
And like, training camp crushes die hard.
Yes.
They're like prospect crushes for a baseball fan. Like, once you've decided that the guy is the guy, you wait for them to be a guy for a long time. You hold those shares for a long time when you buy stock.
Yeah.
It's because less people than you realize watch college football, so that when those guys catch on to someone in college they just never let go of them.
He's not playing for a reason. Coming up, we're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes here on 580 Sports. 580 Sports Talk coming your way on this Wednesday. Jake LeBon, Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero with you. Dan's happy his Nuggets beat the Lakers yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
That was nice.
Got our rings, got the banner, and got to chant "Who's your daddy" at the Lakers at the very end.
Nice.
That was extremely cool.
Nice. Yes. Basketball full swing on the NBA side of things. My wife's excited because she's a San Antonio Spurs fan because she's from San Antonio. She's all in
Wemby.
on Wemby. She is. Big Wemby guy.
I
right
can't wait to see Wemby tonight, man.
Did you see the quote from Paul George today, or maybe it was yesterday, about Wemby?
How he is long.
All right, let me find it for you here. So he had said, hey, I don't know, this skinny Euro kid is going to be all that hot. Like, let's pump the brakes. He has retracted that statement. Paul George said, quote, I take back everything I said. I thought it was going to be tougher. He Euro'd without taking a dribble from the free throw line, flushed it. No one's stopping that. Honestly, that's pretty funny. I like playoff P a whole lot more when he's not actually playing basketball. I've decided that. I think he has very interesting takes, and I hate watching him play basketball.
Podcast P is what you're a fan of.
Podcast P, yeah.
Like Podcast P.
So NBA action happening as well. So we got
They're talking about the Bulls? Excuse me.
They win.
6-time NBA champion Chicago Bulls in action tonight, and then that team sucks and it's garbage.
I don't know
Don't talk about them. They're awful.
I wasn't planning on it. Sorry. I don't have an NBA
I'm
team,
so excited to win 39 games this year.
Yeah. And make the playoffs.
Going to be so sick. I can't wait. No, I'm probably going to miss the playoffs.
I missed playoffs.
10 seed, make the play-in tournament, and lose by 30 to, I don't know, the Knicks. There's a stupid-ass team. I hate them.
I don't even have a team, son. We're good there. If you want to hit us up on our text line, let us know, 785-272-9429.
Dan and I are part of like 5% of NBA fans that root for a team instead of like,
players. Yeah.
I just root
Steph
for
Curry fan.
Donovan Mitchell wherever he ends up. Wow, that seems like a really empty life.
Did the Warriors beat the Suns yesterday?
No, the Suns won.
The Suns beat the Warriors.
Suns
Okay.
beat the Warriors.
You know, it turns out at any level of basketball, if you shoot something like 9 of 39 from 3, you're probably not going to win.
Nope.
You got to usually make more than 25% of your threes.
Difficult to win.
If you're going to shoot 40 of them, damn near.
Yes.
What happened to the game I love?
It's college basketball, man. 4 All-Americans are big men to start the year. That's real ball.
Real hoop. Throw it in the low post and let the big dog eat.
Starting 3-man Hunter Dickinson.
Except the problem is that of the 4 big guys, only one of them is a back to the basket guy. They're all like Embiids and Jokic's, man. Like, and the only reason the one guy is back to the basket's because he's 9 foot tall and weighs at 600 pounds.
Can't really move.
He can't move. He's just he was like that kid when you were in 7th grade, not 7th grade, like 6th grade, and they were like 6'2", and you threw him up there and he just held the ball over his head and put it in the goal. Like, that's what Zach Edey is. And then when you actually comes down to it and you have to play a game that matters, you lose. Like, if you've got Purdue ranked number 1, I can't take you seriously.
That's fair. I don't think a lot of people take Purdue seriously.
Yeah. But, like, you know, Filipowski, he can shoot the 3 for Duke. You know, like Hunter Dickinson. The best skilled big man Bill Self has ever had. Zach Edey, and I'm forgetting who's the other one. I'm probably
Think of Baycott.
Yeah, Armando Baycott. He can step
40.
Up. Yeah, that dude.
So old.
That dude. If he makes an old joke or makes a Perry Ellis joke, like Armando Baycott should overtake Perry Ellis, joke.
He has literally already begun his post athletics acting career.
Yeah.
He was in Outer Banks.
He was. My wife watched that show.
It's ridiculous. It really is.
Got that YMCA game.
He's been in 6 years, man.
North Carolina has had a ton of those dudes. Is Leaky Black still around? No, he's in the NBA now. He also played for 100 years at UNC, I swear. 5, but still. His last game, or no, not his last game. The game where they beat Baylor in the NCAA tournament in 2022. Insane game. That was in Fort Worth. I was at that game. He threw a pass, quote unquote, off the backboard that made a sound that I've never heard before and have not ever heard since.
I remember watching it live, and I made a sound that I can't describe.
It sounded like if you threw a large super ball off a brick wall and it exploded. Like, that's what the basketball sounded like. I started laughing. It was me and just one TV guy from North Carolina in the overflow media area watching it, and I just burst out laughing. And he goes, "What happened?" And I said, "Dude, I don't know. I've never seen that before in my life."
Armando Baycott, he fouled out. Thus, Big Dave. Didn't foul out.
He got hurt. He
got
rolled his ankle on the
play
broken
before.
piece of floor.
Yeah, got hurt the play before.
He had been hurt, and he aggravated.
He got to go. You got to go to the big dog. Got to go to Big Dave.
Suddenly,
drop step hook shot.
You
party on mass.
You can talk as much as you want about having a short rotation when you get to the tournament. It's normally like 7 or 8 players. North Carolina was running with about 5.5, and because of one injury, had to put Brady Manick on a back to the basket center.
Not a good situation.
Not a great matchup.
No. But a good matchup is Patrick Mahomes against anyone, and the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs met with the media today. He was asked about Justin Ross and gave the very good answer.
The quarterback answer.
The leader answer, if you will. But this is what Patrick Mahomes had to say to the media today.
What is the challenge of playing a division opponent twice in 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when you play a division opponent, you know each other already. You prepare for against that team, and they prepare against you all off season. And then being able to play them 2 times in 3 weeks, really, a little less than that, honestly. It's a challenge because we're so much familiarity. They know what we want to do. We know that what they want to do, and now how can each team execute at a high enough level to have success. And so obviously they did a great job against us with their defense this last game, and how can we adjust? And I know they're going to make adjustments as well and have success this next game.
It feels like there may be snow in the forecast on Sunday. I know there's been that video in history of you kind of saying you're a snow game guy. Do you have any reason or rhyme or reason why that could be the case?
I don't, because I grew up in Texas, so I only saw snow like twice growing up. So just kind of got accustomed to it here in KC.
There's something with the grip that maybe like.
It's definitely. I thought snow was going to be, I guess, like rain, where it gets a little slippery. Whereas snow, it actually kind of makes it a little bit sticky in the air. So I think that could be something as far as why. And then at the end of the day, you just got to go out there and throw it and see what happens.
Patrick, when it comes to third down conversions, you guys are number 1 in the league. And then when it comes to 3rd and 15s, you guys have a sizable margin between 1 and 2. What is it about third downs that you guys are just able to just create out there and make it work?
Yeah, I think it's a mentality. The coaches preach how we're going to execute. The guys go out there and do it. And then we just have belief that we're going to make it happen some way. It all starts up front. The offensive line in third downs has to block against great pass rushers when their ears are kind of pinned back and they want to get to the quarterback. And they've done a great job of that. And then the guys, whenever I've extended, have been able to make plays happen. So you got to have the mentality to really execute it during practice so you can execute it during the game.
Do you feel like you're at the best when you're able to extend those plays sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do a great job first of having the play calls to go against what the defense is presenting to us. And then whenever we do extend, I think guys do a great job of getting themselves open. And then whenever I can run for it, I try to run for it.
I know you spread the ball around. It was 10 receivers, 11 targeted. But you ever go back and you see the first half Travis Kelce had? You ever, like, I don't know, giggling in the huddle? Like, why aren't they covering this guy? Like, it's not an unknown commodity, and it seemed like it was easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think defenses and defensive coordinators are doing their best to cover him. There's a reason he's Travis Kelce. He finds a way to get himself open versus man, versus zone, kind of versus everything. So just glad he's on my team. I'll say that.
Hey, there was a reason for you to pull for certain major league teams when you were growing up because of your dad. But I wonder if the Texas Rangers were ever part of your fandom as a kid.
Yeah, no, I was a big Rangers fan. Kind of when I grew up. Especially kind of those high school years when they were kind of getting to the World Series. They ended up losing 2 of them, and I was able to go to some of those games. And so I was a Rangers fan. I guess it's my team when the Royals aren't aren't in contention. So I'm happy for them to get to the World Series. I know Shane Buechele is a big Rangers fan as well, so I texted him when they got there. So it is cool to see, and hopefully they go out and win it all.
It's been a few days now. What do you think McCole just generally has brought back to the team?
Yeah, I think he just brings another spark of energy. I mean, y'all see McCole, man. He always has a smile on his face. And for him to be there in that locker room, you can just feel the energy and then obviously the speed, and he has familiarity with the offense. And so other guys that are younger can even learn from him just because he's been here for a couple of years now. And even though he left, he's back quick enough that he can pick up the stuff that we added in pretty quickly.
Rashee mentioned on that touchdown that it was originally supposed to run a corner, but you made an adjustment there. How quickly is he coming along as far as being able to make adjustments? And was that kind of something you expected him to do or thought he might do based on the coverage?
Yeah, I mean, he has great feel. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, obviously you see how explosive he is and you see the physical talent, but he has a good understanding of when he's open and how to stay open. And he's starting to recognize coverages more and more. Coverages are a little bit more complex than they were in college, but you can tell as he's starting to learn more and more, he's getting himself open. And so I think we'll continue to work with that. And he'll continue to find ways to get himself open whenever maybe the necessary route is not going to be. And he did a good job of that on the touchdown.
Did you see that too? Were you hoping that maybe he would make the adjustment? Or?
Yeah, originally he was the primary originally, but we had a kind of another option if they played a two-high shell, which was Kadarius, and they did a good job of covering that. And I kind of reset it back and was just looking for a guy to kind of have an outlet to throw a check down to, and just saw him pull up in that window perfectly. So, yeah, he definitely wasn't supposed to be open, but he did a good job recognizing the coverage, knowing where to be at the right time.
After a couple things. First off, Justin got arrested the other day. He's back. The coach said to the team. As the captain of the team, sort of message do you have for him as he comes back and tries to work through this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we love Justin. I don't know too many of the details as far as that goes, but in this locker room, it's a brotherhood, so we just try to pick each other up as much as possible.
I had a football question. On the scrambles, the third and long scrambles, it seems that you always have just enough to get there. We talked about your speed before, but is there a secret to knowing, where the routes are? How do you pick where to go, when to run? Is there spots where you can run on a play if it breaks down on something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking to throw first, knowing that the guys are faster than me and they can make the big plays happen. And then whenever I do run, I run scared and try to get out of bounds and pass the first down as fast as possible.
Last one, by
Patrick, with everybody's tough out there, but with Rashee, both those touchdown catches in the recent weeks, he was going to get hammered. Can you just describe what it tells you and your own trust to see a guy take the hit and nobody's willing to take the hit like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a good football player at the end of the day. He wants to go out there and win. He wants to compete. He's Texas tough, man. Those Texas guys, man, they're tough out there on the football field.
All right, pause. We're going to come out and say, Texas guys are tough on the football field. Right after Mahomes said every time he runs, he's running scared for the sideline. I'm calling shenanigans.
Hey,
I don't know about that one, Patrick.
Hey, guess what? Patrick Mahomes was me running. Jake, when you catch the ball, what did you do? Run scared away from people.
Business decision.
Hey, look, any normal person would be in the same position. I agree. I'm just saying, you can't say those two things back to back. Doesn't quite work that way.
He talked about snow. Yeah, I really didn't know about snow living in Texas. Is it just me, or has Texas got a lot more snow recently than in the past? Because I've got family who lives in Texas now, and they get snow like every year now.
Yeah, Al Gore is on line one. Yeah, I mean, they've had some major winter issues down there recently. When my sister was in school, my older sister, when she was in school at the University of South Carolina, they used to close every public school, at least the colleges, if there was snow anywhere in the state. So, like, if it snowed in the very upper tip of South Carolina, like, nope, no class. Maybe 45 degrees in Columbia, they would cancel class.
Well, it's kind of like, if you didn't know about tornadoes, like I remember the very first time my wife, moved here, and she called me on the show, and we had a break, and she goes, Jake, I'm downstairs in the bathroom right now. I was like, why?
Nice.
She goes, well, the sirens are going off. And I was like, Well, I mean, yeah, but that's not what we do here. You only really go to the basement if it's like
You
heading,
can see it.
it's heading towards you, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, I get it, though.
It would have been funny if it was just like the Monday afternoon, like
No,
test
it
siren.
wasn't at noon. No, it wasn't at noon. She did bring that up one time. She goes, I looked outside and it was nice. I was like, yeah, it's a test. That's a test. Don't worry about that. Should have told you about that. That's my fault. That's my bad. That's my bad, sweetie.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. I was like, no, you're good.
Speaking of things like that, though, like when normal people like me say something about, oh, you can't do that as a player. So Chris Olave got arrested the other day, right?
Yeah.
He was
driving like a crazy person.
So reportedly, he told the arresting officer, let me see if I can find the exact quote here. He essentially said, oh, here it is. Quote, I play for the Saints, man.
He did the, you know who I am. Man, you're a loser.
No, here's the thing. Everyone would do this if they could. I know that for us, for the normies, you say that and you think, oh, you're a tool. You deserve what you get. Honestly, though, you're famous and rich, man. And you know that in a lot of situations in life, that'll get you off the hook for things.
Yeah, but you look like a loser.
Yeah.
Like,
but it usually works.
It works for him. You got to do the cost benefit analysis. From now on, Chris Olave is a do you know who I am guy.
Yeah.
And that's
one of many.
That's unfortunate.
Frank Gore, notoriously a do you know who I am guy. Connor Frankamp, notorious do you know who I am guy.
Also a do you know who my dad is guy.
Yeah.
That probably carries more weight in Wichita than elsewhere.
Yeah. Coming up next, we got What Is Wrong With You, and then we'll talk with Tim Fitzgerald.
What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? Brendan and Dan here with you. We'll get to Tim Fitzgerald coming up in just a little bit, but first we've got to find today's winner. All of our stories and What is Wrong with You are brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, which saves time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal with Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winner for the week so far, we met him yesterday. He is the fake cop, fake Gronk. Guy in the red GMC pickup truck who had super cheap blue and red flashing lights on his dashboard that plugged into his cigarette lighter in his car. And he was pulling people over and trying to intimidate motorists acting like an undercover or an off-duty police officer while wearing a Rob Gronkowski Buccaneers jersey. Extremely funny.
It's so good.
The cheapest lights possible. I wonder if I can find like how to get or where I could get lights this cheap. Like red and blue flashing lights. How much would it cost to buy these? You can actually get ones that look like
I think you can probably win them with like 1,000 tickets at Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese. Did you have a place like that when you were growing up? Like not necessarily a Chuck E. Cheese, but a similar type local place like that?
Oh, we had Chuck E. Cheese, all right.
Yeah.
Google Chuck E. Cheese triple murder sometime.
Oh.
Yeah. That was my Chuck E. Cheese.
All right.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah. It's not there anymore, if you can believe that.
I'm shocked.
Hasn't been for 30 odd years.
We had a place called Medieval Times, or no, was it Medieval Times? No, Enchanted Castle. That's what Medieval Times is something else. That's where you go and eat mutton and watch jousting. No, Enchanted Castle. It was like a slightly more grown up Chuck E. Cheese, and it was the same kind of thing. That the 1,000 tickets you could either get flashing red and blue lights or 18 Laffy Taffies. That's essentially what the conversion rate was. We've got 2 new stories going head to head today, though. For my story, it's a pretty simple one. Would you accept $6,000 in exchange for being banned from all Disney parks for life?
Yeah, I think probably because I can go on vacation somewhere I actually want to go. Not a Disney.
Not
adult.
a Disney guy?
Not a Disney guy. No.
Well, you would become friends with a gentleman who jumped off a bridge at Epcot this past week. A viral video.
Happiest place on earth, huh?
Of a presently unidentified man leaping into the waters of the World Showcase Lagoon at Epcot is making the rounds online after being posted to YouTube.
The caption calls him the DJ Khaled-like man, and I think that's mean.
I think that's extremely mean. I think they're calling him fat and ugly.
I don't know about ugly. Damn, that's mean of you.
Certainly fat. I don't know how, I don't know.
Was he walking around talking about another one? We the best. Like if he's up in everybody's face saying we the best forever, like then okay, yeah, he's DJ Khaled like. But in any other way, it feels rude to say that.
There's no other mention of DJ Khaled in the story. So I'm really not sure why the picture caption mentions that.
Anyway, I'm sorry to derail the storytelling here.
So we go to the Diz Family Adventures YouTube channel, which shared the footage late Tuesday, unrelated to the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, which you should go subscribe to right now. The bearded, heavily tattooed man, also wearing sunglasses, a black bandana, and black clothing, is seen scaling the railing of the bridge in the Italy pavilion. Scaling the railing. In the footage, filmed Monday at 5:30 p.m., the man is seen interacting with several other guests, many of whom are urging him not to jump in the water. One man yells, "Come back, come back." Another yells, "Do it." For more than a minute, the man stands there with only his heels teetering on the edge of the bridge, debating the decision. All the while, you can hear the gentle strumming of the chitarra battente and the hymnal hum of an accordion playing in the background. A female onlooker says, "Don't do it," as someone in the distance yells to the man to descend into the drink. The man says, "For real?" and then asks how deep the water is. The YouTube page then alleges the man was dared to jump into the water and was offered $6,000. One woman yells, "You're going to get kicked out of Disney, mister."
Mister.
Other women around her agreed. He then falls into the water. Didn't really dive. He fell into the water with a modest splash and starts swimming toward a nearby gondola, lifting himself out. He had to climb into the Disney gondola at the Italy pavilion in Epcot. The soaking wet man starts walking back toward the bridge as several onlookers cheer and applaud him. Eyewitnesses then claim he was grabbed by Disney security seconds after the video ends. It is unclear whether he was facing criminal charges. However, it is almost certain he has been banned from all Disney properties.
Remarkable. So good.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. The battle between the onlookers, between "Don't do it, you'll get kicked out," and "Jump.
Do it, you coward.
Do it, nerd."
Bet you won't.
As he contemplates his own humanity up there. How deep is it? I don't know, man. It can't be that deep. It's Disney World.
Right. Wild.
That is our first story for today.
All right, for my story today, how upset do you get about door dings on your car?
I'm almost afraid to answer this. I got to knock on the wood in here. I generally not super mad. I haven't gotten any, thankfully. Unrelated story. I once rode my bike directly into the side of my dad's car.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my brakes didn't work.
Oh, geez.
I didn't know that. My parents' house is on a hill. I didn't know that until I was going down the hill. And yeah, I crashed into the car. He had a big dent in his car.
So I have like an older car. My car is about, I've had it for 8 years. It's paid off. It's a little older than, it's an older model than that.
Sure.
About a 10-year-old model. I got some dings. I've got some dents. It happens. Like sometimes people are careless and that sucks. Other times people are trying to take care and like a gust of wind gets your door and that sucks too. But like, I'm not super concerned with the aesthetics of my car doors at this point. They're a little gashed up. It's fine. I can live with that. My wife has a newer car, would prefer to park like with no one anywhere close to her. Like she will park like on the spot where there's only one possible place to park next to her. She does not want to have her car dinged. Some people are more particular about their cars than others. Then we meet this guy who attached a rubber bumper to his car doors with wires and duct tape to make sure he didn't get any door dings. The problem was it looked like a bomb, so much so that the bomb squad was called in. We've got a picture up on the YouTube right now, youtube.com/@580 Sports Talk. This is what the guy's car looked like. And there were several calls to 911 about a car appearing to have a bomb on the passenger side doors at the First Watch restaurant in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Shout out to MTSU.
Is it wrapped in washcloths?
It appears to be, yes.
Or hand towels?
So that's what it looked like. And multiple people called 911 and said, we think this person has a bomb on their car. The wires were connected to a suction cup on the inside door handle. All businesses in the shopping plaza were evacuated for nearly 2 hours.
Oh, my God.
Schools in the school zone were placed on lockdown while the investigation was ongoing due to the address related to the vehicle's tag. A Murfreesboro Police Department supervisor eventually reached the owner of the car by phone. At that point, he was standing with the other evacuee across the street the entire time. He had no idea it was his car that was causing all the ruckus.
Okay. That's really dumb. How do you not know? It's the one everyone's pointing to and running away from.
the one they're inspecting. The Tennessee Highway Patrol Special Operations Unit responded and gave all clear after examining the car. MPD, the drone team, the fire rescue department, the fire marshal's office, the different counties fire marshal, Tennessee Highway Patrol, the ATF, and another county's emergency management agency and emergency medical services assisted. Since there was no intent to cause harm, the man will not be charged.
Nah, man, you got to charge this dude for being an idiot.
A nuisance?
Yeah, you at least got to put him in jail for like 24 hours. You got to think about what you've done.
See, again, I get it. Like, my wife's car is nicer than mine. I will happily do my best to make sure she doesn't get any dings on her car if that is what she wants. And that is very definitely what she wants. This very definitely what this person wants, and devised a whole system to try and make sure that there are no dings on this car, and it looks pretty shady. Like, I'm not sure I would have thought it was a bomb, but I definitely would have thought something was up with all the wires running to the suction cups.
Yeah, I wouldn't have parked next to him. That is for sure. Right? I would not do that.
I would have parked across the street.
Yeah, nah, man, I'll walk. That's fine. This is too weird, no matter what it is. All right, this wins today.
Called it a bomb threat.
The fact that he's across the street oblivious, probably the whole time thinking, man, what an idiot this must have been. What a real dummy, huh? Joke's on you, pal.
That wins today, but I want to go back and revisit. You're getting kicked out of Disney, mister.
So funny.
Gee Willikers.
Oh, gosh. Golly. Golly, gee. That's so funny.
Mister. You'll never be able to go on It's a Small World again. Where will you buy fake house ears?
You'll never get to ride Dumbo. He's like, how deep is it? That's so good. Good day of stories. We'll go with our fake car bomb today. Does that beat fake Gronk? Or fake cop and fake Gronk? One and the same.
Pulling people over wearing a Rob Gronkowski jersey is just such wild behavior. That's got to move on for another day.
That's the winner for today. Fake cop, fake Gronk. It wins again in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Well, that's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Let's get to a break, and we'll get to Tim Fitzgerald after that here on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us in just a moment on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline will be Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. In fact, the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. That's where you can go for all the best insight into everything going on with the Kansas State Wildcats from Fitz and his entire crew. Make sure you're following Fitz on Twitter as well. His handle is @LifeOfFitz. And we've got Fitz on the horn. What's going on, Fitz? How you been, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. It's been a great day so far. I'm glad it has been for you as well, Fitz. I'm assuming it's been great. You said good. I'll extrapolate to great. That's fine.
Okay. Well, my audio dropped there for a second on you. My phone's being weird.
Hey, I
decided to not listen to you.
I get it. I just got a new phone recently, and even though I've had an iPhone now for like 8 years, I still was like, I don't even know what is going on. I had many problems with it, so I'm right there with you, Fitz. Let's get to the Kansas State Wildcats. We'll talk a little basketball coming up in a bit. We are 1 week away from K-State's exhibition game against Emporia State, but on the football side of things, I would imagine that K-State team, back-to-back wins, and to go to take on a TCU team this past weekend and just beat the tar out of them for a full 60 minutes. Had to feel good for a whole group of guys, maybe more so Will Howard than anyone else.
Yeah, that was impressive what they did. I felt like they wanted to make a statement. Did you notice they left the starters in? I think that was an indication that there might be a little bad blood between these two schools. And then Sonny Dykes goes to postgame and really doesn't say much about K-State. It was kind of like a meteor fell out of the sky and hit his team. It wasn't possibly that his team wasn't ready for this game. It's interesting. This has turned into a pretty decent rivalry. I always thought it would kind of be a rivalry when it was, Gary Patterson as a coach, since he's a K-Stater, but it took him to leave before this thing really heated up into a rivalry. But it was a great performance by K-State. Will Howard was very, very good at quarterback. I'm just astonished. I don't think I've ever seen this before, in which two quarterbacks from the same team were in the top 6 of the college football quarterback ratings for the weekend. It's almost impossible to accomplish, but K-State did it. Will checked in at 2 and Avery at 6.
So I know after the game, Coach Kleiman was asked about what are you going to do with the quarterback situation? Will continue to be a rotation. What's that going to look like? And he said, I think this was early in the press conference. In fact, he mentioned that, hey, look, it's maybe not the ideal situation long-term, full-time, but it worked today and it'll work for now, and we'll keep adapting as we go forward. When you've got a couple of games on the schedule, like this week, I think, frankly, K-State should be able to beat Houston with whatever they do at quarterback, with either of those guys playing any amount of snaps. But when you play Texas in a couple of weeks, or, maybe I'm tooting my own horn too much here, but a few weeks from now, you get the game in Lawrence against the KU team that will be fired up. I don't know that you can find as much success with a 2-quarterback system. So I will ask you your opinion then, Fitz. The rotation that we saw from K-State against TCU, can that same kind of snap split work long-term for this offense?
I think what we saw on Saturday was the same thing that we saw at Texas Tech. Maybe they gave Will Howard a few more snaps at the start of the game, but eventually they settled at Tech on Avery Johnson because there was, clearly he was playing better. It was less clear this time. I think it became clear in the second half that maybe Will was having the better game, but it also worked out where he got most snaps because, he had the last possession. He had a number of long possessions in that second half. So I think they're just going to keep going with the hot hand. And if that means they rotate every other possession, that'll be it, at least for this game. And then we'll see what happens. I do agree that at Tech or at Texas, you better go in there with a game plan and be ready to do something. And I just can't see rotating quarterbacks in that kind of, big game situation.
Outside of the QB play, what impressed you the most on Saturday?
Defense. The defense was really good. They've gotten banged up a little bit, but that defense has matured quite a bit. They didn't give up the explosive plays very often. They had 1 or 2 long runs that they ended up tracking down and keeping them out of the end zone. And even to the very end, when TCU was trying to score against the K-State backup defense, it didn't happen. They held them out of the end zone, even though it was ones versus twos for the most part. So I think that was a really good sign for K-State. If this defense can continue to adapt and perform like they have the last couple weeks, they're going to be in pretty good shape.
Our guest is Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. Fitz joins us every Wednesday at this time. Check out he and his staff's outstanding work at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and follow Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. Fitz, what do you think accounts for the improvement on the defensive side of the ball that we saw, in particular, in evidence on Saturday? Is it just better understanding of the scheme? Is it some more health for some important guys? What do you point to as the biggest reason that they played better on Saturday?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just winning your battle in front of you. They clearly didn't at Oklahoma State. And, they've started causing those turnovers, which has helped them quite a bit. I feel like they've grown in confidence. We've seen the back end of that defense mature quite a bit as they continue to learn and grow and get more comfortable out there. And also, I think inserting Jake Clifton at middle linebacker, even though that's not his true spot, he's probably more of an edge linebacker than the middle guy. But I think it really solidified things. To have his leadership in there with Purnell and Moore, I just think it settled things down a little bit. But for the most part, I just think they were more focused on beating the guy in front of me, and they did that quite a bit against TCU.
Desmond Purnell is a player that has really made a big step forward this year at linebacker. Chris Kleiman said after the game Saturday, he's played at an all-conference level. How important has his development been, especially in a position where obviously you had the injury to Deuce Green that was devastating, but you had a lot of youth behind that, and that linebacker group has really needed some guys to step forward. You already mentioned Clifton, but Purnell stepping forward, I have to imagine, has been every bit as important.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Des Purnell's been outstanding. He put on about 15 pounds of muscle mass and about 100 pounds of confidence. And, he just knows what he needs to do. This is a guy that kind of got forced into duty last year, maybe a little ahead of schedule from where he was at. And he dove in and took charge. And he has gotten really good. He's an outstanding linebacker. He could have had 2 interceptions. The first one kind of dropped in his lap and escaped him. And then the second one was a really hard catch, and he made it. He's been really good for this defense, and he continues to get better. I agree. Sometimes Coach Kleiman gets carried away with those compliments, but this one I agree with him on. I think Des Purnell has been outstanding this season for K-State.
Looking ahead to Houston on Saturday, Houston comes in with 1 conference win, and it was on a Hail Mary to beat West Virginia at home on the last play of the game. They come in with an experienced quarterback, Donovan Smith, somebody who's been around the block in the Big 12, was at Texas Tech last year, and is the team's starting quarterback, which is not something that K-State's seen on a week-to-week basis so far through the Big 12. What part of this matchup stands out to you as what will define it on Saturday afternoon in Manhattan?
Kind of some of the things we've talked about is just, winning that point of attack, beating the guy in front of you. K-State's offensive line has been doing a lot of work. I mean, we talk about the quarterbacks, but they're, running for more than 300 yards a game, and that just says your offensive line's winning that battle. And defensively, K-State's going to have to be able to kind of keep him pressured and bottled up. He doesn't like to run anymore, but he can do that. He likes to be a pocket passer. Then you got to keep him uncomfortable in that pocket and really be able to apply some pressure, because the one thing Houston doesn't lack is some great athletes, and they've got those guys at receiver. And taken a while to kind of settle into a cadence with him and some younger receivers, but I think they are beginning to find themselves. And if Houston's defense wants to play as well as it did against Texas, they're going to be a problem. But they kind of let the genie out of the bottle by, showing the 3-man front that they had for Texas and hadn't shown before that. And now K-State knows it's coming if they use it.
We're chatting with Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. It is the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. Fitz joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Go make sure you check out all of his work at GoPowerCat.com and follow him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. All right, Fitz, what's this game going to end up like? Does K-State win? Do they cover the spread? How's this one going to unfold?
Boy, that's a big spread at 17.5. I know a lot of people fell for that a bigger spread last week when Texas played at Houston and lost, but I do think K-State covers. I think this home environment will be a lot for a Houston team that, hasn't seen a lot of this. But mostly this game falls into my one almost ironclad sports betting criteria. When a warm weather team comes north into the cold, and it's supposed to be cold and rainy on Saturday, they do not want to play football. They do not compete at the normal levels. And I think that cold will have an impact on the game in K-State's favor.
Do you think Dana survives the year at Houston?
Yeah, because his contract. I don't think they're in a position to go buy that out. I think it's set back the department in a way you don't want right now as you're heading into your new life in the Big 12. I think he's a good coach, but I don't think he's a complete coach. And if he can get some people around him to help him with his inadequacies, I think that's good. But I think this is a roster that should be better than it is. And there's only one thing that causes that. Either there's 2 things that cause that. Both of them are coaching, but one is coaching and the other is the coach didn't manage the locker room. So it's one of those things going on, and both of them fall at the feet of the head coach. If finances weren't an issue, yeah, I think he's out. But I think the numbers are going to rule the day. They gave him too big a contract to buy out. I love how ADs do that. They always are looking out for the best interest of the coaches instead of the athletic department that they manage.
All right, Fitz, I did have a couple basketball questions I wanted to ask you before we get you out of here today. And the first one, and this is some news that has been generated over the last hour or so, 5-star recruit Patrick, and I might get his name wrong, and I hope I don't, Ngongba, I hope that is how you pronounce his name. He has narrowed his recruitment down to 3 schools, Kentucky, Duke, and Kansas State. He is going to announce his school decision coming up on November 4th. So we are just about, 10 days away from the 5-star commitment. How much does K-State like its chances here to land the 5-star prospect?
It's Gongba. The N is silent. And at least that's what I'm told. I like K-State's chances. He comes in this weekend on an official. I think he will be warmly received. They've done a good job making sure the student body knows that he's going to be in town. I think this is, unless something goes wrong, I think this kid will end up in purple, and it'll be a huge recruiting victory for Kansas State. Go back to Big 12 tip-off in Kansas City, and Jerome Tang said at the podium, the next step of the program is to go find a five-star NBA caliber center that can come in and play and bolster their program. That was a message to Patrick Gongba. It just was straight a message to him that they're looking for him to, help them get to the next level with their schematics, because they're changing the offense to kind of involve a big post a little bit more.
Eric Bossy, who is incredible over at 24/7 Sports when it comes to basketball recruiting, and we've had E-Boss on the show here a few times before. I saw earlier this hour, he had a reply on the Go PowerCat message boards over there, Fitz, that said, he was asked, what is it going to take for K-State to lure a guy away from the Kentuckys and the Dukes of the world? And E-Boss said you got to sell him on being the guy they build around, which at least Duke really can't, given who they're about to sign in this class, Cooper Flagg. And the fact that K-State has had a relationship and has been on him from the very beginning, I don't know that it'll work out certainly for Kansas State, but I feel like if those are the two most important selling points, and nobody else, and certainly not those other two schools, can offer what K-State can there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think, this is why I think the NIL doesn't hurt lesser schools in terms of history than some of those big players, because what a Gongba means at Kansas State is significantly more. He's more important as a recruit than he is at maybe a Kentucky or a Duke. And I think that'll be on full display this weekend as they roll out the red carpet.
Speaking of Big 12 basketball tip-off, by the way, last week, it was a week ago today, in fact. Anything else from either Coach Tang, any of the K-State players, or anyone else really jump out to you?
Well, the ongoing mystery with Kansas State is the absence of Naquan Tomlin from any videos or promotional material right now. And they are being very tight-lipped about what's going on. I don't think it's season-ending, career-ending. I think he's just got some stuff to work through, but we will continue to lurk around that mystery. But he's MIA right now, and nobody knows for sure why, except for those in a very tight circle around Jerome Tang.
That is, obviously I have no idea what's going on, but that feels like one that would really be unfortunate for this team early in the season. And hopefully he's back as soon as possible. But given the fact that there are a lot of new faces, and given the fact that Kaluma and Perry are the new guys who are going to take on some huge roles for this team, it does feel like it would be a bit of a bummer to miss out on some time to build that chemistry between those three.
Absolutely. And we're talking about a guy that it's fairly new to basketball, but I think everyone in that locker room is looking to him for leadership heading into this season. To have him absent, I think, does feel like a setback. We'll find out, maybe later how severe this is, if it can be straightened out or not. But lots of rumors going around, and I'll stay away from the rumors.
Last thing I've got for you, Fitz. Speaking of what Jerome Tang had to say at the podium last Wednesday, when he dropped we recruited 75 guys, and I got a lot of congratulatory and I screwed up text messages after our Elite Eight run. That was a bar, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's really good at this. He's good at messaging, and he went out to talk to Coach Prime about marketing the brand, and he really wants to push that. He certainly did in Kansas City with the Cats jacket and the sunglasses. It's fun to be around him. He really is just a nonstop energy factory. It's just always on the move. It's really amazing to watch him work.
Tim Fitzgerald is the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Go check out all of his work there. The rest of his crew's work as well. Go be a VIP. It is absolutely worth it. Go follow Fitz on Twitter, too. His handle there is @LifeOfFitz. He joins us every Wednesday at this time for the Wildcat Wrap-up. We appreciate the time as always, Fitz. Thanks so much, and enjoy the Houston game coming up this weekend.
Thank you, boys. Good to talk to you.
That is Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. We've got one more hour coming up of 580 Sports Talk, and we'll get there after a break for the national and local news. About 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back to the show. I'm Brendan Dorzinski. That's Dan Lucero. We're here with you until 6 o'clock today. If you'd like to be a part of the program, you can do so either on the text line, 785-272-9429, or you can hop into the comment section on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is called 580 Sports Talk. Just head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk will be the first result. Make sure you subscribe. You can watch the video live stream of the show. Hang out with us in the comment section. Let your thoughts be heard regarding anything we are talking about on the show today. Coming up here in this final hour of the program, we'll get to a busy day of 580 Sports Talk headlines. Jim Irsay is at it again. Not necessarily for all bad reasons, but he is at it again. And we will get to a pitch for more instant replay that, while I think is intended well, honestly, I kind of hate. So we're going to get to that a little bit later on this hour, plus much more than that. Got some college football coming up tonight. We'll get you some Conference USA Wednesday night picks. NBA season starts tonight as well for most teams. Not the reigning champs. They played last night. In fact,
They won too.
The last two champions both played last night. The Warriors also played.
That's right. And they lost. But
They
the Nuggets
did.
didn't. Nuggets won.
Nuggets did win. They won pretty handily.
Anthony Davis scored as many points in the second half as you and me combined.
To the point where people started using those AI picture generators to make images of Anthony Davis doing regular person jobs, like driving a truck. Not very nice.
I will spare you all Nuggets feelings, thoughts, and emotions until the playoffs come around for the most part. But I really enjoyed that last night because the Lakers spent the whole offseason talking about, we almost won that series. We got something for them for their ring night. We got something for them when the new season begins. And that something was bum-ass Austin Reeves as your third best player. I'm sorry. If Austin Reeves is your third best player, you don't have a good basketball team. I'm sorry.
Is Austin Reeves better than Gabe Vincent?
Yes. Gabe Vincent's a bum. Gabe Vincent's sorry. All he was out there to do was try to annoy Jamal Murray. And he was a -17, Gabe Vincent. He's sorry.
Yeah,
they're sorry. They had 39-year-old LeBron. They got AD Anthony Davis, who plays good for one half every 3 weeks and then falls down and gets hurt and is out for 3 months. And their third best player is Austin Reeves, who was the best player on Oklahoma teams that were a game below 500 in his career at OU, and was the second or third best player on a Team USA team this summer at the World Cup that finished fourth. If Austin Reeves is one of your best guys, you don't have a good basketball team, period. There's mountains of evidence for this.
I mean, you can blame LeBron James for that. Le GM has never been very good at his job. Great player, not a great general manager. Never has been. And yeah, when you can't trust your second best player, who frankly needs to be your first best player. Like, LeBron's approaching 40.
You watch, like, I ridicule Anthony Davis just now, but like there are times you watch him and you go, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like the second quarter of yesterday's game where he just decided, I'm taking the ball and I'm going to the basket every time. Do something about it. And the Nuggets said, okay, well, we're not going to let you get downhill in the second half. What are you going to do about that? And Anthony Davis says, well, I'm going to go ahead and not score. I'm going to miss all my shots and not score.
Interesting approach.
Get the Lakers out of my face. We are their daddies.
We'll get to a little bit more on that coming up here in just a moment. But first, let's get to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. And our first headline of the day, veteran defensive end Frank Clark is returning on a one-year contract to his former team, the Seattle Seahawks. I gave you the full Schefter right there. He loves to do that on Twitter. The Seattle Seahawks are expected to sign veteran edge rusher Frank Clark to a one-year deal. This is pending that he will pass his physical, which I think is scheduled for tomorrow, if I read that correctly earlier today. The Seahawks lost outside linebacker Uchenna Nwosu for the rest of the season due to an injury this week. Yeah, good player. That's really unfortunate for him.
Loss.
Clark, of course, is a three-time Pro Bowl selection, spent the first 4 years of his career with the Seahawks, 2015 through 2018, and was traded ahead of the 2019 season for multiple draft picks, including a first rounder and a second rounder. Who did those picks end up becoming?
For the Seahawks?
For the Seahawks.
That's a great question. I don't remember those off the top of my head like I remember, but I'm going to pull up Frank Clark's Pro Football Reference page. And those picks became LJ Collier, who sucks.
Not good.
And then the other two got traded.
Okay.
So
they only ended up really making.
And the
one
Chiefs got a 3rd-round pick that they used to take Colin Saunders, who helped them win a couple Super Bowls. So the Seahawks have made better trades.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Worked out a little better for the Chiefs than it did for the Seahawks.
LJ Collier. Oh my God. What a bum.
Clark started this season with the Denver Broncos. He was released on October 14th, just 11 days ago. 4 months after signing a contract worth nearly $5.5 million. He only played in 2 games with the Broncos, recording 2 tackles on 36 snaps. He will step in and play likely a rotational role coming off the edge for the Seahawks. How do you like the fit? 30-year-old Frank Clark coming back to Seattle.
Ask me in January.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you just kind of need a body, right? Because if you're not trading for a stud, you're just trying to find bodies to get by. And Clark's that. Maybe he'll be extra comfortable going back to somewhere where he had success before. I don't know. Hard to say. Best of luck to him. No hard feelings. I really thought he was going to end up a Chief, though. I think he thought he was going to end up.
I think he did, too.
That was the other thing. Schefter, today, when he broke this news, he was among several who broke the news earlier today. All the big reporters made a quote about it, made a report about it. But he says, former Broncos pass rusher Frank Clark is expected to sign a 1-year deal with the Seahawks. Clark had several teams call, but he wanted to return to where he started his career. I don't know, man. He was signing autographs this past Friday in Kansas City, or at least said he was going to.
Yeah, he's telling me, I'm going to turn up. Get your stuff. I'll sign it for you.
I don't know, man.
Weird.
I don't know.
Just weird.
By the way, let's just get through some other NFL personnel notes while we are on the topic. Speaking of the Seahawks, they will not be playing Deshaun Watson coming up on Sunday. Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski has already announced that P.J. Walker is going to start against the Seahawks. PJ is going to always be limited. I do love my former XFL should have been MVP in 2020. He's probably as good as Deshaun Watson right now, though.
There's one thing Seahawks fans love doing. It's panicking about playing a backup quarterback. Anthony Wright dropped an anvil on us like 15, 20 years ago with the Baltimore Ravens. And there are some in the fan base who've just never forgotten that, even though literally last week, the Seahawks beat a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
How about this? An injury note. We might be getting the return of the Darnold, folks. Brock Purdy is in concussion protocol. And this is also from Adam Schefter. Brock Purdy is unlikely to play on Sunday against the Bengals based on this trend. No NFL player placed into concussion protocol this season has played in the same week. The last time that happened was last year. Kenny Pickett went into protocol and came out in the same week. Probably not a very smart thing to do. So the Cincinnati Bengals will be taking on, in all likelihood, Sam Darnold of the 49ers. This is why the Trey Lance trade this offseason or training camp was such a, one of the subplots to that trade. Every 49er quarterback gets hurt. All of them, every single year.
It's true.
If you are a quarterback or generally a running back that plays for Kyle Shanahan, you are going to get hurt. It happens every single year. Darnold, for all his foibles as a professional, by all accounts, is a very professional guy and has handled a new role with, the grace you would hope for a multi-year veteran. And you could certainly do worse than for one game than Sam Darnold.
Probably.
You definitely could.
I mean, they won a couple of games for the Panthers last year.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fine.
You're playing point and shoot quarterback in the Shanahan offense. If your team gets out to a lead and you don't throw it to the other team, you'll probably be fine.
I mean, just a couple dump offs, screen the ball to McCaffrey, hand it off, run behind Trent Williams if he's able to go.
Shanahan will be in here. Hey, George Kittle's going to be open by 20 yards in this play. Just don't screw it up.
Look at the 24-yard line, wait, and then throw when he turns around.
Hit circle.
It's essentially what it comes down to. Any other injury notes we should get to today? I just want to make sure they're all covered. Yes, Tyreek Hill. There's one we have to get to. Tyreek Hill missed practice today due to a hip injury. And it is unknown whether or not he is going to be able to go for the Dolphins on Sunday when they take on the New England Patriots. He has not missed a game since being traded to the Dolphins ahead of last season. He is currently leading the NFL in receiving yards through 7 weeks. He's got 902 of them. He did briefly leave this past weekend's loss to the Eagles, but was able to return. He finished with 11 catches for 88 yards. That's a very non-Tyreek Hill kind of stat line, 11 for 88. He has gotten, as I believe this is Marcel Louis-Jacques of ESPN points out, he has gotten veteran rest days off and on over the course of the year already, but this is more than that. Tua Tagovailoa said today after practice it was a little weird not having someone like Tyreek out there. His leadership, his aura, but it calls for other guys to step up. Jalen Waddle had a really good practice. Cedric Wilson Jr. the same. A lot of guys did good practices for it being a Wednesday. Comments from Tua further on in his press availability, along with some from Jalen Waddle, seem to indicate they do not expect Tyreek Hill to be able to play this weekend. That's a big loss for that Miami team. That's predicated on speed. You lose the fastest guy in the league. That's going to hurt you.
Yeah, that would be a very big deal. Raheem Mostert also no practice today.
Yeah,
it's a big deal too.
Should note, Tua Tagovailoa undefeated versus the Patriots in his career as a starter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
First headline for me: Victor Wembanyama plays his first regular season NBA basketball game tonight. And again, I know because we have heard from you, and we appreciate all of our feedback from all of our listeners. This ain't NBA country. I know that. I grew up in an NBA city. Brendan, you grew up adjacent to an NBA city too. Yep. We follow NBA teams. We know that the chances are high if you're within the sound of our voice and you're listening to us, you probably did not grow up in an NBA market. This is much more of a college basketball area. I know some people are like really pro college basketball and anti the NBA, and I know that goes both ways. And I like them both for what they are. I just like basketball. Mm-hmm. Like NBA, best players, high level. College basketball's got things that make it great too. But I do follow the NBA closer than maybe many of you. But Victor Wembanyama plays his first real NBA game tonight, and I think you're going to want to see it because I don't think we've seen anything like this before. Wembanyama and the Spurs take on the Dallas Mavericks tonight. The Mavericks have Luka Doncic. He's usually worth the price of admission. They also have Kyrie Irving. Please do not ask him about current events. But Victor Wembanyama is something that I don't think in sports, and this is the whole appeal of sports at any level, right? College, pro, whatever. To see a thing that we have never seen before. Victor Wembanyama is going to break our brains, I think, with some of the stuff he does in the NBA. And I'm not worried about the long-term look. Like people want to talk about how many championships is he going to win? How many MVPs? Is he going to be rookie of the year? All this. I don't care about any of that. Every time this guy gets to play a basketball game and we get to watch it on national television, we should make a little time for it. Because the comparisons that are flying around about the number one pick in this summer's NBA draft don't even make sense. Like, this is the closest thing I can think of. If you have been under a rock and you are not familiar with Victor Wembanyama conceptually, imagine if Kevin Durant blocked shots like Hakeem Olajuwon and were 3 inches taller than either of them. What? That's what we're dealing with here. That's what this could be.
It's pretty freakish.
And it is going to be, I think, worth watching, even if you are stridently anti-NBA. If you like basketball, even a little bit, there's a chance we've never seen one of these before. And a player like this, a talent like this, in a frame like this. And so if you are able to make the time for it tonight, I believe it is at 8:30 tip-off. That might be Eastern time. So let me double back and double check. That might be a
8:30 Central.
It is. Okay, an 8:30 Central time tip. It's the second part of ESPN's doubleheader tonight. The first part is Knicks Celtics. Skip that. I don't care. If you can, watch some Wemby. If not tonight, later on, because Spurs are going to be on TV a bunch because people are going to want to watch Wemby. Go check out Wemby. This could be, again, something we don't have the vocabulary for. And if that's not why you're into sports, or at least a big part of why you're into sports, then we're not the same. So Wemby tonight. That's my NBA headline. Wemby.
He is 7'4" and 210 pounds. That is so slim, so slight. The thing about these guys that come over from Europe too, and I think this has changed a little bit over time because so many European players have become stars in the NBA, but there is still an element of, well, they're not tough and they play a softer game and all of that. He's been a professional since 2019. Like, he's 19 years old. He's been a pro since 2019, playing against grown men, adults. There's some real potential that he is going to be that good right away. And I hope he is. Be fun to watch.
Look, because there's no precedent or very little precedent, you have to look at what precedent there is. And unfortunately, like the health track records of guys that big, not great. Like Chet Holmgren's 7'1" and built roughly like Wembanyama is, and he's already missed a full NBA season.
Mhm.
He got hurt. He hurt his feet last year. Like there are reasons to think, maybe this doesn't look like this for 10, 15 years. Maybe there's a shelf life here. In that case, see it while it's good, like tonight. Check it out. Like you're not going to be disappointed. Again, I know a lot of people stridently, virulently anti-NBA who like basketball otherwise, but are just not NBA people. I don't agree, but I respect your right to that opinion. I just think that if you're going to watch any NBA, you might want to see this French unicorn play basketball, and it might blow your mind, and you might really enjoy it.
Next headline for me on today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got more conference realignment. In fact, it's FBS conference realignment. The American Athletic Conference has voted to add Army into the league as a football-only member starting next season. Army will serve as a replacement for SMU to keep the American at 14 teams. SMU, of course, is joining the ACC because nothing says Atlantic Coast like Dallas, Texas. So the way this is going to work, it is a football-only edition, the same as Navy. Both of those teams play their basketball and other sports in the Patriot League, longtime independent programs. They have joined this conference as football-only members. Now, Philip Rogers, who is the chairman of the American Athletic Conference, says, "We are excited to welcome Army West Point to the AAC. Having Army as a member of the American strengthens our conference in every way. We look forward to having the Black Knights and the Corps of Cadets visit our campuses, and we are equally as excited to have our respective teams compete at Mickey Stadium." So here is the real unique wrinkle to this. Army and Navy are in the same conference for football. They are not going to play each other in a conference game, but they are going to play against each other every year. Army-Navy is going to stay the week after the conference championship games. The last week you can have a regular season college football game in the NCAA. They're going to continue to play that. The game is going to stay on CBS television. It's not going to follow the rest of the Americans' deals. It will be a non-conference game between conference opponents. The reason why is because they're not moving that game because of the tradition. And if that was a conference game, it could change who has to play in the conference title game the week before. Got that? Little confusing.
So if Army and Navy were to finish the year as the two best teams in the AAC, they would play the conference championship game on conference championship Saturday, and then the very next week would play what we have come to know as the Army-Navy game. If that sounds ridiculous to you, take solace in this. We are probably never going to have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So that eventuality is probably not going to come to pass.
I can understand theoretically why this makes sense for Army. The TV and the exposure, although honestly, does the Army need exposure? I don't really know that they do. I feel like that's something everyone already kind of knows about. Anyway, they've been in a conference before. They spent some time in Conference USA. Do you know how that went, Dan?
Not awesome.
Not really all that well. It did not go swimmingly for Army West Point. In fact, I can tell you, as we go to their years in Conference USA.
1998 to 2004. I'm looking at their bowl game history. It is none of those years are part of that.
Nope. Their season high for wins in any of those years, 3. 3-8, 3-8, 1-10, 3-8, 1-11, 0-13, and then 2-9 before going independent again. That's it. Now, Army football has not exactly been killing it for a long time, but still, they went to one. By the way, remember Bob Sutton coached Army? Chief Great?
Yes.
Coached Army.
Took him to the Independence Bowl in 1996.
They got him ranked. They finished the year in the top 25 that year, 1996. It didn't go well before. And if you look at what Navy has been since joining the American, they had, I think it was one season where they were awesome. And maybe another year where they were pretty competitive. But it turns out at the not quite Power 5, but the 6th best conference in the country at the FBS level, eventually you get more used to playing against the triple and preparing for the triple option, and it doesn't go quite as well. All right, so here we go. The first 4 or 5 years, in fact, that they were in the American, Navy was quite good. They went to 3 bowl games. They won their division 3 times. They had 2 11-win seasons. Since then, they've gone 3-7, 4-8, 4-8, and this year they have 1 win so far. It becomes a lot easier to prepare for when you see it every year.
Yeah, it's true.
And Army already stinks. Like, Navy was on fire under Paul Johnson and Ken Niumatalolo before they hit this current skid. Army is awful. They are really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't know that this is going to make a whole lot of long-term sense. But best of luck to the cadets and the Black Knights, excuse me. And can't wait for the non-conference game between conference foes the second week of December.
Next up on our 5A Sports Talk headlines, let's do a Major League Baseball playoff roundup. The Fall Classic is set as 2 teams rally from 3-2 deficits in their respective league championship series to reach the World Series. Last night, it was the Arizona Diamondbacks holding off the Philadelphia Phillies by a score of 4-2 to advance to just the second World Series in franchise history. The Diamondbacks, of course, an expansion team back in 1998. That sets up a Rangers Diamondbacks World Series. Games 1 and 2 will take place at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, Friday and Saturday. Games 3, 4, and 5, if necessary, Monday through Wednesday of next week at Chase Field in Phoenix. Games 6 and 7 would be Friday and Saturday back in Arlington next week, if necessary. A quick aside before I get into like the other stuff. This is the worst stadium matchup in the history of the World Series. And yes, I'm including 1991 when it was the Homer Dome and Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Because you know what the Homer Dome at least did? Got loud.
Yeah.
Like, you had the Homer hankies. Like, there is baseball history in that stadium. The cookie cutter stadiums were not like aesthetically super pleasing, but that was the way things were in the 70s. This is a series that will be played in an IKEA for 2 games, in a Costco for 3 games, and then in an IKEA for 2 more. Just 2 of the worst. And I've been to both of these stadiums. I'm not judging out of hand here. I have been to both of these stadiums. I do not like either one. Chase Field is the worst place I've seen in Major League Baseball. And I've been to Tropicana Field. And Chase Field's the worst place I've ever seen a baseball game. Wretched vibes. It feels like you should be able to get a hot dog and a soda for $1.50. Huge Costco energy from that ballpark.
They're not pretty. I've shared before the one time I've been to Phoenix and I drove by it and someone said, "Oh, there's Chase Field." And I said, "Where?" I thought it was a train depot.
Others have said warehouse versus airplane hangar. Some have said like Dick's Sporting Goods versus like Giant Traeger grill. There have been a lot of really funny comments about that. It is an unsettling stadium versus stadium matchup in the World Series. Maybe the roof will be open for a couple of them. If the roof were not to be open, I'm thinking off the top of my head, this might be the first entirely indoors World Series, if that were to be the case.
Counterpoint, we've already had one involving one of these stadiums. 2020.
Did they leave the roof closed for all of those games is my question. Or did they have the roof? Did they have the roof open because we had the cooties at the time and we were in a pandemic and they were trying to let the pandemic out, let the cooties out through the open roof?
Great question. I wonder if
Baseball Reference
would
will have that. Yes. Baseball Reference will tell you whether the roof was open or closed.
All right, let's go dive in.
Any of those.
We'll do some research. I will research that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if there could have possibly been any others. The Twins, 87 and 91, played against the Cardinals outdoors and the Braves outdoors. Rays in 2008 played against the Phillies. That's an outdoor stadium. Blue Jays, 92-93, Atlanta and Philadelphia outdoors. Diamondbacks Yankees in 2001 entirely outdoors. Astros Dodgers 2017, Astros Nationals 2019, Astros Braves 2021, Astros Phillies last year, Astros White Sox 05, again retractable roof versus non-retractable roof. Mariners never played in a World Series. Milwaukee's never played in a series with a roof.
Based on what I can tell, the roof was open in 2020.
Very good.
Because they have wind conditions, and I don't think that would be relevant if they played in a closed stadium.
So we'll see. We may very well get an open roof. I think they had the roof open for some of the World Series games back in 2001 when the Diamondbacks were last in the World Series. Another fun fact about this World Series. The combined win total for both teams is 174. And I went and did the math on this to make sure this was correct. It is the fewest combined wins in a World Series matchup in a season that was not interrupted either by a strike or a global pandemic in Major League Baseball history. And I think people, it's me, I'm people, are allowed to be a little dissatisfied with that being the ultimate outcome of the postseason, that we get a 90-win team against an 84-win team, an 84-win Diamondback team, which, by the way, was outscored during the regular season. And if you count their playoff run, they're 9-3 here in the postseason. They're still being outscored over the course of their 174 games. They have a -5 run differential. They are a bang average baseball team that has picked the exact right time to get red hot. And if you're a Royals fan watching this, I've got to imagine it kind of looks familiar because there's kind of a 2015 Royals vibe to how the Diamondbacks are playing. They're daring on the base paths. They've got a lot of speed. They don't have a ton of power. They can go out of the yard, but that's not really how they've built their offense. Their offense is predicated on keeping the line moving, I would say. A lot of singles, a lot of taking the extra base, stolen bases, that kind of thing. You know, keep the inning alive, give yourself a chance to score in each inning, not be so dependent on the long ball. And also terrific bullpen work, which was a staple of both of the pennant-winning teams for the Royals. You may not be able to name any of the guys in the Diamondbacks bullpen, but they've all been great. So they've got that going for them, which is nice. I still don't think an 84-win team should be in the baseball postseason. I think that's gross. And I'm disappointed that they have gotten this far because I would have much rather watched an actual good team in the World Series.
I did not know who Saul Frank was. I don't even know what his first name is.
Andrew, I believe. I had to look that one up. There was a list of the rookies that are on the Diamondbacks roster, and I thought legitimately, and listen, I'm a baseball guy. Follow a National League West team. They named a guy I had never heard of in my life. I thought it was a fake name. I thought they were trying to get one over on me. Slade Ciccone. Not a real name. Like I said, that's not a real guy. Come on. You're having fun with old Dan. No, apparently a real guy. Hey, I'm not, obviously, if you're a Diamondbacks fan, who cares? Like if this if this is your favorite team doing this, you have every right not to care about what people like me have to say about how appealing this World Series matchup is. And when I say I would rather have watched a good team play in the World Series, people say, well, the Diamondbacks must be good because they beat the Phillies in 7 games and they beat the Braves or the Dodgers in 3 gagames, so they must be better. No, they're not. We have 162 games of evidence that say that was a mid-baseball team and they're hot at the right time. 9-3 in the month of October. The Royals had a 10-1 stretch in September. Did that make them good? No. Just meant they were playing good baseball for 12 days. This is the right 12 days or 14 days to play your best baseball, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be excited about it. I'm not. This is not something I'm going to celebrate. This is not something I'm going to actively seek out as a neutral baseball fan. Rangers versus anybody else out of the National League, I think I would have been fired. Now, probably not the Marlins, because they were mid too. 84 wins with a negative run differential. How did the Cubs trick off a playoff spot in this league? How did they manage that?
You didn't have to go there, man.
I'm just asking.
The Diamondbacks this year were 576-76, aside from their games against Chicago teams. Yep. Found that out today. That was cool.
That's wild.
That's good stuff.
Like it's not satisfying to me that and look, I'm not blaming the format yet, like the best of 3 wild cards here. I'm not blaming the format yet because it's only been 2 years. It's not great that a 6th seed has advanced to the World Series in each of the first 2 years, but it's 2 years. Like, give it 5-10 years, and we'll find out if this is a feature or a bug.
It is kind of funny that in 2 years of 6 playoff teams in each league in baseball, each year a 6 seed has gone to the World Series. It's only ever happened twice in the NFL, and they've had 6+ teams a lot longer in a sport and playoff that is generally more high variance because you only play 1 game. kind of interesting.
It is. It is pretty interesting. You think there'd be more of that in the Any Given Sunday league,
right?
But by the time you get to January, where you have injuries and you have all those things, like the cream tends to rise to the top. We get upsets. There's nothing wrong with a good old fashioned upset. We get them all the time, like the 18-0 Patriots lost in the Super Bowl. That was wild. A lot of people really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
March Madness. People love the underdog in March Madness, and that's fine. If I want to watch a 6 seed make a deep playoff run, that's where I'll go. I'll go to March. But what bothers me the most is the retconning of an entire regular season. This was a good team hiding in plain sight all along. No, they were not. They were an average team. They are in the postseason because Rob Manfred and the owners wanted more playoff revenue, and they picked the right time to play out of their minds. And good for them. And flags fly forever, and there's nothing I can say that's going to put it an asterisk or take the pennant down or anything like that. But I got a right to be bothered by it. I got a right to think it's lame.
Yeah.
And I got a right to think that this nameless, faceless bunch of Arizona Diamondbacks is not the kind of thing that's going to get me to sit down and turn on this World Series. Rangers in 6, by the way.
We've got to get to a break. When we come on back, Jim Irsay, he's at it again with a rule change proposal that, frankly, I cannot get behind. That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. We spoke on yesterday's show about how bad officiating is in the NFL right now.
It's been noticeably bad the
Yeah.
first two, bad in big spots.
Yeah.
I guess, and that's the kind of thing you tend to notice.
And Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, who loves to meddle, he is upset about some key calls at the end of the Colts' loss to the Browns this past weekend. And he broke NFL protocol after meeting with officials and with the league. Apparently, the referees will speak to the league and certain owners and administrators of teams after big games to go over some big calls and get clarifications and things like that.
They used to send letters. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, where the league would send a letter and say, hey, we got this call wrong. We apologize, but this call in the game that you were in that affected you in a negative way, turns out it was wrong, and we apologize for that.
So Jim Irsay is not supposed to tell you publicly when that happens. They're not supposed to say the officials said we got this wrong. So notably, knowing anything you know about Jim Irsay, he took to Twitter and said, the NFL admits and understands that they did not make their correct call at the end of Sunday's Colts-Browns game. I believe we need to institute instant replay for all calls, including penalties, in the last 2 minutes of all games. I respect Jim Irsay for just always being himself, spending millions of dollars to carry whales in airplanes and totally breaking NFL protocol just willy-nilly because that's just what he does.
Yeah, he could get in real trouble for this.
Legitimate trouble, yeah. So I've got 2 issues with this. One, you run into the same problem that everybody runs into when you say, well, you can't throw that flag at that time, or you have to swallow the whistle at this time, or whatever. So are the final 2 minutes of the game a different sport, essentially, than the first 58 minutes of the game? Because that's what you're telling me. If you're saying we have to officiate differently in the final 2 minutes than the rest of the game, that is essentially removing a lot of the importance from the majority of the game. I don't like that. I am opposed to that. I'm saying if you're going to throw a flag when there's 8 minutes left in the second quarter, you throw the flag when there's 8 seconds left in the fourth quarter. That's how I feel about that. That came up in that Giants-Bills game. That was on Sunday Night Football, right? With the pass interference that wasn't called in the end zone in the final play of the game. Yep. The other part of it is this. I would ask Jim, have you ever watched an NBA game? Notably, the fourth quarter of an NBA game, because they will go to the monitor for everything.
Not just NBA. It's a college basketball problem, too.
Well, yeah, college basketball
basketball
is bad, too.
problem.
Well, the thing, the NBA, you can challenge things.
Right.
College, it's just John Higgins saying, I want TV time.
They just go to the monitor to make sure, are we off by 0.3 of a second on the clock with 1:57 to play in the half?
And if it was the occasional, hey, all right, this review took 10 seconds. We got the clock right. All right, play ball. It'd be a little bit of an annoyance, but I could live with it. But it is minutes and minutes and minutes on end, and the games just take forever. I don't want that in football.
No. It is absolutely not a sport that would benefit from more replay. If anything, it would benefit from less.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm kind of at the point where I'd like to see less replay, to be completely honest with you. And if we're going to start legislating penalties, I mean, it's one of your beloved spring leagues. It has the Sky Judge, where they could page down to the officials, and they kind of have a system like this now in the NFL where they can correct something that's obviously wrong right on the spot.
Yeah,
maybe give a little more leeway to the Sky Judge. Or the the control room that can page down and say, nah, he obviously didn't catch that ball. Go ahead and overturn it. Or, hey, that was obviously short of the line to gain. Go ahead and overturn it. That's fine because that's brisk. That's moves along quickly. But what we do not want is these guys under the hood for 3 to 5 minutes. They don't go under a hood anymore. That's kind of antiquated phrasing. But we don't want these guys watching video for 3 to 5 minutes trying to determine if it was pass interference by the letter of the law.
No, do not want that at all.
You either want the human element in this or you don't. And if you don't want the human element in this, I don't know what that means. I don't know if you can I don't know if you have a sport without the human element.
It's so bad, man. Replay review has already become probably a bigger problem than it needs to be. And I think generally getting the call right is important, but we have strayed so far from you get 60 seconds.
Because they lawyer everything, right?
Yeah.
You lawyer, did he complete the process of the catch? What the hell is even that? Did you ever think about the process of the catch when you were playing backyard football as a kid?
No.
It was never a thing you thought about ever in your life until 10 years ago. Des Bryant. And now we got to worry, wait a minute, did he complete the whole process of the catch before he fell down or whatever it is?
I will stick with the thought I have had for years and years now. You say, all right, so Andy Reid challenged the call. You're going to put 60 seconds, a 60-second clock up on the Jumbotron at Arrowhead. The officials will go to the monitor. If you do not have a change in the call, a clear, obvious, what's the word? What is the word they use?
Clear and obvious.
Oh my God, with the U. Indisputable. Undisputable.
Indisputable reference. Yeah.
If you do not have that in 60 seconds, you shock the referee, get a shot collar on him or something, you shut the video off, and it's over. Do it like the quarterback helmets, right? It turns off with, I think it's 15 seconds on the play clock.
Yeah.
the video turns off and the headset turns off. If you do not have an answer by then, it is over. You make a call from there. That would, at the very least, speed up the process. And I think we need that with replay review.
Because think about, like, if you're listening to this, think about how many times you've watched a game and thought, boy, I don't know how they're going to rule that. Like, maybe you just stick with it on the field. And so often, that's what they end up doing. It's always stands, right? How often is it confirmed? It's almost always stands. And stands means we can't overturn this. We don't see enough. It's almost never confirmed. Yeah. So
we need to speed up the process, not add more reasons for the referees to take things into their own hands.
I would rather have no replay at all than more replay at this stage.
Especially replay that is going to review penalties, which are often subjective anyway.
Right.
Less of that, please.
Imagine you're watching the Super Bowl last year, and those refs go watch video for James Bradbury holding Juju for 5 minutes. Imagine that going on.
No, I will not. I do not want any of that. We've got more 580 Sports Talk coming up on the other side of this break. Final few minutes of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. We could have used this entire 5 o'clock hour just to talk about the new revelations in the Michigan sign stealing case today.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of it.
So much.
And I'd love to get to more and more of it. But I think the one final thought I want to share on the topic for today, the funniest thing about Connor Stallions, even
his name?
Well, his name is incredible. Makes me think of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Wild Stallions. Yes.
Wild Stallions.
I think of the same thing.
So we found out today he has a 600-page manifesto about how to build and continue building Michigan football into a power. I mean, every detail that comes out, and that's a story from Sports Illustrated today from Richard Johnson. Go check it out. It's really, really well done. This dude's insane. He's not just obsessed. He is insane.
Yeah. This is more than obsessed. And 600-page manifestos are that's the creepiest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
And the thing is, one, usually manifestos and Michigan people don't go well.
Everybody made the same joke.
Everybody made the same joke. He didn't go to Michigan.
No.
He's not a Michigan man. He's a fan. He got into the University of Michigan and then chose not to go. He is a voluntary Walmart Wolverine.
Yeah.
And he's still doing all of this.
Embarked on a military career, and now he's doing SIGINT for Michigan football.
Also,
with a broader view towards what? Taking over the program?
He also claimed to have gotten things like GPA and standardized test scores of several hundred admitted students to the Naval Academy.
By pretending to be Ken Niumatalolo?
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I know Coach Ken. And they're like, oh yeah, here, have some documents.
Have some classified documents.
So if that's true, the federal government might be knocking on his door soon, or like the Navy itself be like, hey, you have information you are not supposed to have.
There were some phone calls to Annapolis today. I'm entirely sure of it.
Yeah.
There were some
big
phone
time.
calls.
Also, I read that the person who gave over the documents, if they can find out who that was, is going to be facing a large fine. Yeah, I would think so.
This is absolutely, like, more and more I read about it, the more I become convinced that this was like a dangerously obsessed fan who managed to get access to the program and carried out this whole SIGINT espionage bit where he's sending a network of spies to college football games across the country, buying them tickets in his own name and transferring them to his friends or cohorts to get information that he would then relay to the Michigan coaches. There is no way the Michigan coaches knew about this. They just thought he was really great at studying film. I guarantee you, he kept all of this hidden from them, because if he tried to tell them about this and started in with, well, in page 48 of my 600-page manifesto, Jim Harbaugh would have said, man, I got to go see a guy about getting some cheeseburgers. You do your thing, big guy.
Well, the funny thing is,
have fun watching your film, Haas.
And the funny thing is, of anybody involved at the University of Michigan, the one most likely to be like, actually, I'm interested by this, is probably Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
To be like, well, hold on, you put a lot of work into this. Let's see what you got.
Weird guys, birds of a feather, but like there's weird and then there's this.
Whereas
there's weird
Manuel would have been like, I'm calling the cops now.
There's weird, like Jim Harbaugh weird is like, I wear the same pair of pants and really like whole milk. And then there's the like the level of weird that we're talking about with Connor Stallions here. I absolutely believe he is a lone wolf agent. He has done all of this on his own with no prior knowledge of the Michigan football program. I believe that 100%.
He is a lunatic.
Yes.
Like
just
a genuine lunatic.
A raving lunatic. And what makes Michigan look bad in the end is letting that guy anywhere near the program in the first place.
Yeah, ain't that true? We have one more break to get to. We'll put a bow on things with the final word coming up after this. Time for a real quick final word to wrap up 580 Sports Talk. Dan, you're first.
I may not be able to convince you, the listener, of every opinion or every thought that I have in my head. We've been friends long enough now that I understand I may not always be able to convince you that what I believe is right or the right thing to do. But I hope if you will trust me at all at any point now or in the near future, trust me on this. Watch Victor Wembanyama play basketball tonight. If you like basketball even a little bit, even if you are not an NBA person, check out the Wemby show because I guarantee you're going to see something you've never seen before.
Final word for me real quick. We just talked about it a few minutes ago. Do not add more replay to football. College, pro, high school, I don't care. Do not add more replay. We've got enough of it. It's good enough as it is, and certainly don't slow the game down even more in the waning moments of any given NFL game. Sorry, Jim Irsay, but no. That does it for 580 Sports Talk. We've got a jam-packed guest list coming up for you tomorrow. Mitch Holthus. We'll talk to Paul Meyerberg. We'll talk to Rick Peterson. That's all tomorrow from 2 until 6. For Jake LeBon, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We will talk to you guys tomorrow at 2 on 580 Sports Talk.